As my niece and I settled in for a night of house sitting at my elder brother's place while he and his wife were away, a curious moment unfolded. Amid our lively discussions about our plans for the following day, my niece surprised me by indicating she was ready for bed. With swift determination, she slipped into the closet without hesitation, leaving me momentarily stunned. Hastily reaching out to stop her, I was met with a puzzled look. I'm Melissa, a 24-year-old housewife, and my brother, 5 years my senior, has always been a steadfast presence since we lost our parents early in life. Our bond remained strong even after we both married, and we continue to lean on each other for support. While my in-laws are wonderful, they reside in Alaska, making it challenging to rely on them for immediate assistance. As for my brother Sam and his wife, their union was hastily arranged after a clash with her parents, leading to an ongoing estrangement. With no nearby relatives to lean on, our bond of unwavering support flourished. It grew even stronger when Sam and his wife welcomed their daughter, closely followed by the arrival of a little girl into my own family 4 years later. Living in the same city, the daughters became inseparable, akin to true sisters. As the years passed and my niece Sarah approached her 10th birthday, Sam shared his plans for a special 10th wedding anniversary trip. "Melissa, would you mind looking after Sarah while we're away?" Sam's request came with a touch of hesitation. "It's just a short overnight trip nearby, but we thought it'd be nice to have some time alone." I readily agreed, eager to assist. When we discussed logistics and I inquired about picking up Sarah, Sam shook his head, indicating a different plan. It became clear he wanted me to stay over at their house with Sarah, concerned about leaving it unattended for security reasons. I playfully teased Sam about his excessive concern but eventually relented. Opting to spend the night alone, I left my daughter, who still harbors some sleepover jitters, in the care of my husband. On the day of their anniversary getaway, I headed to Sam's house. Holding Sarah's hand, we bid farewell to her parents. She seemed a tad apprehensive as she watched them depart, but our house-sitting escapade was about to commence. Initially, I had planned to bring my daughter along and have my husband retrieve her at bedtime. However, Sarah adamantly refused, so I abandoned the idea. While I know she enjoys my daughter's company, she remained firm in her decision without offering an explanation. Sensing her disappointment, I'd offered to treat her to a playdate at my house after breakfast the next day, sparking a glimmer of excitement in her eyes. Sarah typically tailors her play to include my daughter, so I brought along some slightly more intricate games and puzzles that adults could also enjoy. As I laid them out, I asked her what she fancied playing. We whiled away the hours engaged in games and cooking dinner together, yet Sarah remained by my side, casting nervous glances around the room. Initially, I attributed her behavior to potential loneliness or lingering nerves from being away from her parents, but even after several hours, her demeanor didn't shift. Concerned, I gently probed if something troubled her, but no matter how many times I inquired, her response remained the same. "No, it's nothing," without divulging further. Sarah's guarded behavior hinted at an unseen apprehension. It wasn't until bedtime approached that I grasped the gravity of her unease. Sarah slipped into her pajamas, a smile adorning her face as she swung open the closet door, and declared her intention to turn in early, planning to head to my house in the morning. To my surprise, nestled within the closet was a bed, its presence catching me off guard. Attempting to make sense of the situation, I watched as Sarah swiftly settled onto the bed, bidding me good night while nudging the door close. My astonishment spilled out in a raised voice. "Wait, Sarah, are you planning to sleep in there?" Her response, delivered with a solemn expression, affirmed her decision. "Yes, but it's okay. I'll keep it slightly ajar. If anything happens, I'll wake up immediately." Concealing my bewilderment, I extended an invitation for Sarah to join me in my own bed. After some hesitation, she relented and joined me. She explained her desire to keep the bed in the closet as a hiding spot. Though perplexed by her reasoning, I reassured her it was perfectly acceptable. With a bright tone, I queried why she felt the need for a hiding spot. After extracting a promise from me not to chuckle, she leaned in and whispered, "The monster might come." At first, one might assume she was just an innocent child, but the tale she spun shattered any semblance of innocence. Sarah trembled, clinging tightly to my arm. "The monster is terrifying and cunning. It only shows up when Daddy's away. If it appears, Mommy has to fend it off, and I must stay hidden in the closet until she succeeds. Mommy always cries during the struggle." Once, I tried to assist her, but the monster's banging on the closet door scared me so much. I wrapped my arms around Sarah, feeling her tremble against me, and sighed deeply. Perhaps this monster was more than a bedtime tale. It felt too real. The revelation of my sister-in-law's affair, discovered in such an unexpected manner, left me adrift. If the supposed monster was indeed her lover, it wouldn't dare approach this house while she was absent. Yet Sarah firmly believed it targeted days when Daddy was away. As I observed Sarah's vigilance throughout the day, her proximity a shield against potential threats, my heart ached. Considering the gentle soul of my niece and my brother's unwavering trust in his wife, anger swelled within me towards my sister-in-law. But above all, I yearned to offer solace and reassurance to Sarah. I gently clasped Sarah's hand, offering her a reassuring smile. "Don't worry, Auntie's here today. You mentioned the monster is cunning, right? Well, it'll be caught off guard by a stranger like me and won't dare to come near the house. Besides, your mommy, who the monster always targets, is safe with Daddy right now, so it can't harm her." Despite my attempts to ease her anxiety, Sarah remained clouded with worry, unaware of the monster's true identity. With each passing moment, her apprehension grew, fearing an imminent attack. She suggested we seek refuge together in the closet, prompting me to encourage her to share her concerns about the monster. I hoped that by addressing her fears one by one, she would eventually find peace and drift off to sleep. As I listened to Sarah's distressing revelations, I realized I couldn't simply remain idle. Without hesitating, I whisked her out of the house, disregarding her attire, and swiftly drove us home. Upon arrival, I briefed my husband on the situation and coordinated for him and his friends to spend the night at Sam's house. Around 10 p.m., after my husband and his companions had departed, I received a call from Sam inquiring about Sarah's well-being. "Has Sarah already retired for the night? Don't forget to take care of yourself and your family too. Ensure the house is securely locked. Good night," he advised before bidding farewell. After inquiring about Sarah, Sam urged me to ensure the door was securely locked before retiring for the night. His stern warning resonated deeply, and I fought to steady my voice as I assured him. Once the call ended, I glanced at the peaceful slumber of Sarah and my daughter, steeling myself to confront the lurking menace. The following morning, my husband returned from my brother's house, and my emotions swirled with a mixture of fear and anger as he recounted the events of the previous night. Relief washed over me, knowing my actions had been justified. We spent the remainder of the day at home, anxiously awaiting my brother and his wife's arrival to retrieve Sarah. Upon laying eyes on me, my brother's demeanor shifted to stern interrogation. He demanded to know why Sarah and I had departed his house during the night. "Why didn't you stay put as I instructed? I explicitly warned you not to leave. You claim to understand, so what possessed you to return home on your own?" His accusations left me feeling uneasy, prompting me to question how, while on a trip, he was aware of our absence. Avoiding direct eye contact, he reluctantly confessed, "We provided Sarah with a smartphone equipped with GPS." His revelation contradicted his earlier insistence on not leaving the house during our phone call the previous night. If he had indeed monitored the GPS, he would have easily discerned our departure. Suppressing my urge to confront Sam then and there, I maintained a composed demeanor, mindful not to disturb the children in the adjacent room. "By the way, did you have visitors last night?" My brother's tone shifted, his concern palpable. "Two unfamiliar men showed up at your house late. Who are they? Why would they come to a house that's meant to be occupied only by Sarah and you in the dead of night?" His voice quivered, though not from fear of the unknown intruders, but from a different source altogether. As he spoke, it became evident he was treading cautiously, his eyes darting around. "About those men," I pressed for clarification, but my brother's attempts at evasion were interrupted by his wife, Kate. Whether she was anxious about further discussion or for other reasons, she abruptly called for Sarah and declared they were heading home. As Sarah emerged from another room upon hearing her mother's call, Kate seized her hand with an unmistakable force. Abruptly, Sam's demeanor shifted, his words carrying an abrupt finality. "I can't forgive what happened, but we're leaving today," he declared, urging Sarah to depart the room. Despite my efforts to dissuade them, my brother and his wife remained resolute in their decision to leave. Ignoring my pleas, they pressed on without a backward glance. Witnessing Sarah's resistance to her parents' departure, I swiftly drew her close. "What's going on?" Kate's startled cry echoed as she released Sarah's hand, but I shielded the child behind me, creating a barrier between us and the departing couple. Amidst their hostile tirade, my husband and I stood firm, adamantly refusing to surrender Sarah. As they advanced toward us with fury in their eyes, we managed to usher them out of the room, firmly asserting our stance against allowing Sarah to be taken away. Swiftly, a waiting police officer intervened, promptly detaining the agitated couple. Confusion reigned as the officers attempted to contact my brother and his wife. Sam vehemently insisted to the officer that it was we who should be detained, alleging that we had taken Sarah from her home and were holding her against her will. My sister and her husband have abducted her from her rightful place. Please rescue her swiftly, he implored, despite our protests. Our daughter, emerging from the chaos, sought refuge behind me, engaging Sarah in a bewildered conversation, affirming she was not being held against her will. Sam's stern demand for Sarah to accompany him fell on deaf ears as she clung to my side, paralyzed by her father's towering anger. Kate remained silent beside the officer, casting furtive glances at Sam, hinting at an unspoken message intended for him and Sarah. As the officer restrained Sam, who was causing a scene at the entrance, my husband intervened, holding his smartphone aloft. Sensing the tension, I ushered Sarah and our daughter back into the adjacent room, urging them to close the door to muffle any sounds. With their safety ensured, my husband silently played a video he had recorded in my brother's house the previous night. As the footage unfolded before their eyes, a ghostly pallor washed over the couple's faces, betraying the shock of realization. The video unfolded with eerie precision, capturing the quiet turning of the house key followed by the stealthy entrance of two unknown men, seemingly armed with a duplicate key. Their jovial demeanor upon entering, coupled with mentions of my brother's name, sent shivers down our spines. "You guys are ghosts too, huh?" they quipped, followed by a chilling joke about discounted rates, invoking my familial connection. With smirks etched across their faces, they directed their attention to my husband and his friends. Evading direct inquiries, my husband's friend offered a vague response, prompting one of the men to boast about the sum paid, hinting at a close relationship with my brother and his wife. Their unsettling remarks took a darker turn as they casually mentioned their plans involving Sarah. As the camera caught a glimpse of their profile, a sinister aura emanated, rendering them more villainous than any mere monster. From my vantage point, the screen remained obscured, but the chilling audio alone sent shivers down my spine. Following the playback, my husband's friends wasted no time interrogating the intruders, probing into their frequent visits and habitual pairings. Their inquiries soon turned to Sarah and me, a sense of urgency tainting their tone. My husband's terse admission of our absence seemed to jolt the intruders into reality, realizing the gravity of their situation. With mounting tension, the men made a hasty exit, their hurried departure leaving lingering questions in their wake. Whether they had overlooked my husband's recording until the last moment or deliberately concealed its existence remained unclear. My brother, appearing visibly shaken, vehemently protested his ignorance, clinging to the belief that he was being framed. However, the damning evidence presented in the video, entrusted to me and young Sarah by my brother, shattered any lingering doubts. His feigned ignorance failed to sway anyone, leading to his apprehension by the authorities. Kate, though feigning innocence, found herself under scrutiny as well, her involvement questioned by the officers who had heard Sarah's testimony. Consequently, both Sam and Kate were escorted into custody, their roles in the unfolding drama under intense scrutiny. During the police investigation, Sam and Kate eventually came clean, leading to their arrest. Shockingly, Kate had been orchestrating a lucrative scheme, inviting men to their home while Sam was away at work and profiting from their visits. When she realized there was a demand for children, she exploited Sarah, carefully skirting the law to assist her mother, who was under pressure from unsavory individuals. Innocent Sarah, unaware of the sinister motives, innocently posed for photos which Kate used to entice potential clients. These were innocent snapshots, devoid of any suggestive content, captured with a disposable camera and only lent out to interested parties, never sold. While I detested Kate for her actions initially, it seemed like a matter that didn't directly concern my husband and me. However, things took a darker turn when Sam not only condemned but actively participated in the exploitation, rather than reprimanding his wife or protecting their daughter. So, instead of addressing the issue, Sam decided to expand the operation, recruiting men to become clients, believing that more employees would lead to increased revenue. With this simple yet flawed logic, he devised a plan to involve me in his business. Knowing I would never willingly agree, he resorted to coercion, using the threat of exposing the photos as leverage. Their scheme took a sinister turn when they carefully selected a day when the neighbors were absent, locking both Sarah and me inside their house. Then, without a second thought, they exchanged their house key for a large sum of money and departed on a pre-planned vacation, leaving us behind. Unbeknownst to them, Sarah, who had always dutifully obeyed their commands, chose to reveal the truth in order to protect me. Despite her limited understanding of the conversations, Sarah sensed the danger lurking around us, and she confided in me, unveiling the nightmarish reality of Sam's household. Faced with this revelation, I implored my husband to capture the perpetrator's activities on camera that very night. Their inadvertent disclosure provided crucial evidence for the police, prompting swift action upon my report. Simultaneously, I notified Child Welfare Services to ensure Sarah's safety. From the vantage point of the police bus, we watched as Sam and Kate were apprehended at their doorstep, finally shielding Sarah from their grasp. Despite being first-time offenders, the severity of their crimes, including violations of child welfare and anti-prostitution laws, warranted their imprisonment. The police emphasized the gravity of the situation, particularly the implications of the stored images of the child, which could never be completely eradicated once leaked online. The chilling reality of their actions struck me to the core as the police relayed this information. Fortunately, Kate hadn't digitized or sold the photos of Sarah and had kept them securely stored, averting any potential leaks. It's baffling to comprehend how my once kind and dependable brother Sam could devolve into such a monstrous figure. Until then, our relationship had been characterized by mutual support, making it all the more frightening to realize how deeply he had descended into darkness. Despite their arrests, I still grapple with the enormity of their actions. Following Sam and Kate's apprehension, the authorities also interrogated the other individuals involved. Initially, they attempted to claim innocence, arguing that it was merely an attempted crime. However, the discovery of a child's photograph in their possession and the revelation of additional criminal activities confessed by Sam and Kate during the investigation led to their arrest on multiple charges. After dealing with the monsters and their associates, our next concern was Sarah's well-being. With both her parents unfit for guardianship and no family willing to step in, Child Protective Services decided to remove her from their care. While this was a relief, Sam and I faced the harsh reality that neither of us had parental figures, and Kate's family had severed ties. We discovered that if we couldn't find a suitable guardian within Kate's family, Sarah would be placed in foster care. After much deliberation with my husband, we made the decision to adopt her. Sarah held a special place in my heart, and I couldn't bear the thought of parting ways with her. Thankfully, my husband shared my sentiment, and we saw this as an opportunity to start anew in the countryside, closer to my in-laws. Moving to the countryside not only provided Sarah with stability but also allowed my daughter to spend more time with her grandparents, whom she adored. She was thrilled to have Sarah as her older sister, fulfilling her long-standing wish. Free from the clutches of her parents, Sarah quickly adapted to her new role and environment, embracing a life filled with peace and happiness.
Our house is so gloomy because someone sleeps all day. It's really troublesome because she can't even take care of herself, let alone do the housework. I wonder how long she plans to just lie there. Whenever they see me, my mother-in-law and sister-in-law always complain. Seriously, having a daughter-in-law who does nothing is the same as not having one at all. There's no point in having such a wife, my father-in-law added, expressing his dissatisfaction. I, Hillary Brown, am 32 years old. It's been 5 years since I got married. My father passed away due to an illness when I was in high school, and my mother passed away right after I got married. Ever since I was young, I loved drawing and have been aspiring to become a picture book author. After graduating from high school, I went to a design school and then worked as an illustrator at a small design firm. My husband works at an advertising agency, and our meeting was initiated when he came to my company to request character design. After dating for 2 years, we got married and started living with his parents and sister. Becoming a freelancer upon marriage, I could work from home. I tried my best to be an excellent wife by dedicating myself to house chores. My mother-in-law didn't care much for housework and left it all to me, which made it relatively easy for me. My sister-in-law had little interest in house chores and was often busy with dining out or parties with friends and colleagues. so we seldom had meals together, but there were no major issues. However, 3 years ago, I fell down the stairs at a station and suffered severe injuries, which changed my life significantly. I now have severe lower limb paralysis due to spinal cord injury. Although it was a huge shock at first, I have gradually adapted to this situation over the years. Initially, my in-laws were very concerned, but it seems they did not imagine I would remain unable to walk, and their attitudes changed over time. During this time, my sister-in-law got married and moved out. "I'm so glad I don't have to look at you anymore, Hillary," she joked. Being nearly bedridden, the cold demeanor I got from my in-laws was apparent. Indeed, having a bedridden family member brought various troubles, so I couldn't retort to my in-laws' sarcasm. In the old family home, where there was not enough space for a wheelchair, I had no choice but to mostly stay in bed all day since I couldn't move without one. Fortunately, I was working from home even before the accident, so I was able to continue my job. I was grateful that I was able to work since I could move my upper body. I am currently supported by a helper and a maid who come to assist with house chores. If I were living alone, the helper would support me with my daily life, but the scope is limited because I live with my family. The helper mainly provides physical support. My husband is too busy to take care of my daily needs, but my in-laws are very healthy. My mother-in-law is healthy, and my father-in-law, who retired last year at 65, is always at home. Since there are healthy family members at home who do not work, the support from the home helper for cleaning, laundry, and shopping is limited. In the first 2 years, my in-laws occasionally helped, but gradually they did it less often. I understand that my mother-in-law, who dislikes house chores, finds it bothersome to do my share as well. My husband initially was encouraging, but now he hardly speaks to me and offers no support. He only says, "I have work, and caregiving is not something men do." Even if my in-laws don't help, the helper must follow the rules and can't provide life support. However, seeing my in-laws' reaction, the helper got concerned and introduced a maid. Hiring a maid is such a waste. Why would you say that? But I have personal needs, and without laundry service, I'll run out of clothes to wear. Do you intend to use me? Even though you're just a daughter-in-law? I don't intend to, but given the situation, I have no choice but to ask. When I conveyed this, my in-laws looked at me with annoyance. "Really? You are a nuisance. We can't afford this in our house. I'll manage that myself." I was once again grateful that I could continue working. And so the maid came. The maid, Sarah, was a 52-year-old woman who lost her husband early and had no children. She somehow reminded me of my deceased mother. She was a warm person who cared with all her heart, and I am truly grateful. Now, the only people I could talk to were not my family, but Sarah and the helper. When Sarah visited, my in-laws immediately tried to ask her to do their errands as well. "Can you also take care of our laundry and cleaning?" "I can't do that." "What? Aren't you a maid? What are you here for?" "If you want that service, it will incur additional charges. Will you pay for it? If so, I can accommodate." "Why are you so arrogant?" Such a troublesome maid. Despite such exchanges, I felt somewhat relieved that Sarah clearly refused. This situation continued for about a year when my sister-in-law returned after getting a divorce. She insisted that her husband's infidelity was the reason. "He's dumb, got seduced by another woman." Such a troublesome man, she said, though her ex-husband, who worked at a renowned company, seemed very sincere and not the type to cheat. I found it odd but kept quiet to avoid causing any trouble. "It's so helpful to have a maid here. Of course, you'll take care of me too, right?" My sister-in-law said the same as my in-laws, but Sarah firmly refused. Sarah did not have a favorable view of my in-laws, who were not kind to me. "I refuse." Then what are you here for?" "I am here to assist Hillary with her daily tasks." "What?" "Well, just as useless as the daughter-in-law. Hillary must be skimping, right? Well, it's not like she earns more than pennies. She's a failure who can't even take care of herself, and that's why I have no choice but to rely on the maid." You and your mother can take care of yourselves, right? When I counted like this, they fell silent. But the sarcasm from my in-laws got worse when my sister-in-law returned. A bedridden wife is just a nuisance. Now that Megan is back, the house feels too small with you here. Megan is all we need. It must be nice to have it easy, just lolling in bed all day. Even while I was working, Megan made a point to come to my room just to be sarcastic. Fed up with the daily sarcasm, I talked to my husband. Hey, can you ask your mother and Megan to be a little bit more mindful with their words? I get hurt too, but it's the truth, isn't it? What do you mean by truth? You can't do housework and you spend all day in bed. I'm not just spending time in bed. I'm actually working. But you're working from bed, right? Seems like an easy job. I'm tired from commuting. That might be true, but I'm trying to be useful and I'm making an effort too. It's understandable that mom and others are frustrated. You're not fulfilling your role as a wife. Do you really mean that? Just try not to get so worked up. It's tiring to sweat the small stuff. That was all he said, showing no empathy. I feel the inconvenience in my body and it's painful not being understood at all. If I were healthy, if I could live a normal life, how different would each day be? I just wanted my husband to understand the harshness and sadness of my current situation. I can't stop crying when I think that my feelings might be just me being selfish. Despite my physical limitations since the accident, I've tried to keep moving forward, telling myself there are others in tougher situations. At times like this, I feel lonely without having a trustworthy family by my side. But at the same time, I'm glad that my parents don't have to see my current state. However, it seems there was no one in this house to support me anymore, which increased my sense of isolation. I didn't have a place to return to, and just when I was contemplating a new life with my husband, he surprised me with his words. I've been thinking over what my mom and others said. I briefly felt happy, thinking he tried to understand my situation. But his next words plunged me into deep despair. I ended up agreeing with them. What do you mean? I think it's better to find a younger, healthier wife. What? I still want kids, but with you. It'll be difficult now. It felt like a blow to the head. I couldn't believe my own husband would say this. I realized I couldn't expect anything more from him. He kept talking, but I couldn't hear a thing. However, I understood that my husband wanted a divorce. You're truly useless, just like a big piece of trash. You might be paying for the maid, but your salary isn't much, so there's hardly anything left after paying her. You're just baggage, a parasite in our house. That's true. The helper costs money too. A money-eating parasite should just leave. Disdained by my husband and his family, there was no reason for me to stay. Even without a home to return to, I decided it would be fine as long as I found a new place to live. Maybe I'll move out. With Sarah's help, I began looking for a new place. Sarah was supportive, and it was convenient to handle the procedures online. Once everything was prepared, I handed the completed divorce papers to my husband. You've finally decided, but don't resent me. Blame your condition. I understand, but are you really okay with this? With me leaving? Of course. I'll find someone more suitable. Everyone says I can find a better wife. Will your life be okay? Don't worry. There's Dad's retirement money, and Megan got a good settlement from the divorce. We won't have financial issues for a while, so I don't need to rely on you anymore. Alright, do as you wish. My husband seemed oblivious to reality, but I didn't speak further and left my in-laws' house. There was a silver lining. Living alone meant the helper could now support me with daily living activities. She helped with cleaning, laundry, and shopping, which was a great relief. Sarah continued to support me as well. She used to be a career woman at a large corporation, skilled in computer use. She left her job after getting married, tired of the bustling corporate life. It's been 20 years now. Sarah laughed as she spoke, but her past experiences seemed to empower her to stand up to my in-laws. Now, she's more of a coordinator for my work than a maid, and her support is indispensable. She's happy to help, which is a great relief. Moreover, my new apartment was barrier-free, suitable for wheelchair users, allowing me to move independently. The kitchen was spacious, enabling me to cook on my own. As I was getting used to the new days, persistent calls from my mother-in-law began. However, I decided not to talk to her anymore and ignored all her calls. With Sarah's help, I was able to focus on my work without worrying about my in-laws' criticism, which significantly advanced my work progress. My work increased so much that I didn't have time to deal with my mother-in-law. A year later, the contacts from my mother-in-law became less frequent, but they still occurred. As my life had stabilized, I decided to answer the phone when she called. "Hello, you finally picked up the phone. Why have you been ignoring me?" "I was worried because you never answered. I thought something might have happened." I was addressed in a tone softer than I had ever heard before. During our time living together, she never showed concern for me. I felt she was probably overwhelmed by reality and at a loss. I wondered about the kind of life she imagined I had been leading this past year. "I'm sorry if I caused you any concern. I am very well and living my days peacefully, so please don't worry." "That's a relief, but there's something I want to ask." "What is it?" "Won't you consider living with us again, like before?" "Me? I was once considered just a nuisance, a parasite. Living with me again, there wouldn't be any benefit for you. I've had a change of heart. I can't abandon someone with physical limitations like you. We'll take care of you from now on so you don't have to worry." "No, thank you. Living alone, the helper provides daily support. I can ask for help with cleaning, laundry, shopping, and Sarah assists me with my work, so I have no worries." "I wanted to ask about your work. Is it true that you were earning more than Ted?" "Yes, it's true. But it seems Ted had forgotten that by the time we divorced." "Hillary, Ted told me you were making $15,000 a month. My salary supported the household expenses at my in-laws. Initially, my in-laws helped due to my physical limitations, and this coincided with a decrease in my husband's income due to his company's poor performance. Fortunately, my income increased. That's why I brought it up with my husband. At first, he said, 'I'm sorry,' and asked me to keep the decrease in his income a secret to not worry his parents. However, after nearly 3 years, it seemed he had forgotten that I was the one making the payments. When we divorced, I deliberately didn't mention his income. Moreover, I knew that my sister-in-law's divorce wasn't due to her husband's infidelity but her own, which the brother-in-law had informed me about. I learned that she had taken money without permission and lied about receiving compensation. Her husband said he would ensure she returned the money and would claim compensation. I decided to divorce before my in-laws could learn about this fact. When I revealed the truth to my mother-in-law, she was speechless for a while. Ted became obsessed with a woman he met at a nightclub and ended up in debt. That was the reason for the divorce, I suppose. Perhaps you were hoping for that woman's income? That's not true. They weren't in a relationship. He was just one of her customers. That might be the case. Did you know about this? Yes, I knew everything. Why didn't you tell me? Did you also know that Ted's company was in trouble? Of course, I knew that too. To know all that and say nothing. How cruel. According to my former mother-in-law, my sister-in-law eloped with her affair partner but was eventually abandoned and returned with a significant debt. My ex-husband's company went bankrupt 6 months ago, and though he's job hunting, he claims nothing suits him and is currently unemployed. I heard he's lost confidence and has shut himself away. My husband's retirement fund also got exhausted because the children moved back in. On top of that, there's still debt remaining. Is that so? I think everything will work out if you come back. I can't understand that at all. I couldn't grasp what she meant by working out and why she would say such a thing after driving me away. I never expected things to change so much in just a year. It was quite fast, wasn't it? My ex-husband probably never imagined his company would actually go bankrupt. Given his lack of attention to anything, it was predictable. My mother-in-law pleaded in tears, "If I had known, I wouldn't have chosen to let go of you, but it was too late now." All she talked about was financial worries. They only thought about their own lives. My sister-in-law didn't seem motivated to find a job and kept gaining weight as she just ate and slept. We had to sell the house to pay off the children's debts. The family home was old and not worth much, and after deducting demolition costs, it didn't amount to much. Now they're living cramped in a small apartment, in a dire situation. My former in-laws are exhausted, working part-time jobs from morning till evening, or so I heard her crying over the phone. Because you didn't pick up the phone, we ended up in this situation. If we had been able to contact you before selling the house, what do you think would have happened? If you had known, you would have helped, right? You lived in that house too, so you must have had some attachment to it. That's not true, though. What? The thought of how self-centered their thinking was nothing but astonishing. I'm glad I ignored the calls. Even if I had answered, I wouldn't have agreed to such a discussion. So, Ted and Megan are all depending on you, Debbie, and your husband now. Hillary, please come back. We have no one to rely on but you now. I'm sorry, but I am a stranger now and can't help you. Don't say that. We know how terrible we were in the past. We apologize. Let's build a barrier-free house with your money and live together. I couldn't understand how she could make such a proposal. It made my head hurt. I had to make things clear and end this conversation. I refuse. I answered your call today because I had something to tell you. What is it? I intend to claim damages from you. Why should we pay you damages? Ted didn't have an affair with the lady from the nightclub. He was just a customer. Not for the affair, but for the mental anguish caused by the verbal abuse from you. What? When I mentioned that I had recorded all their abusive behavior as evidence, my former mother-in-law was clearly shaken and hurriedly ended the call. Maybe she was afraid of being charged with something. Maybe because she knew they were guilty. Later, through a lawyer, I filed a claim for damages. They conveyed their current situation and begged for the claim to be waived, but I had no intention of agreeing. Having secured a new job illustrating children's books, I'm moving closer to my dream of being a picture book author. After many trials, I plan to continue moving forward independently and positively without being lenient on myself. I'm a little shocked that you would criticize my mother-in-law. If you're not working, why don't you get out of here? My sister-in-law and mother-in-law, who did not know that I was taking over my mother-in-law's debt, threw these words at me without the slightest sense of gratitude. Yes, I understand. But it's up to you guys from now on. The day I packed my bags, they realized a fact I had been hiding and put their heads together. My name is Emma. I am 32 years old, a busy career woman working in an office in the city. When I was a student, I spent most of my time in the corner of the library absorbed in my books. After I got a job, I was buried under a mountain of work and forgot to take time for myself. One of my friends, who sincerely cared about me, said, "Emma, why don't you try to cherish your love life a little?" And she organized a group blind date for me. Then, a man whose eyes met mine was John, who worked in a building in the city center. He is a fresh salaryman working in a building in the city center. And to my surprise, he seemed to be a little interested in me. I was nervous about the feeling of dating after a long time, but supported by his kind words, we gradually opened our hearts to each other. Then he made a gentle confession to me, and our love accelerated. Only 1 year later, we decided to get married. It was like a dream come true that I, who had been so absorbed in my work, could stand at such a wonderful turning point in my life. My friend who organized the group blind date was also surprised at our sudden development. She said, "Oh, really? You're getting married?" I said, "Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? But it's great. I'm so glad I organized that group blind date. Thank you. I really appreciate it. I'm looking forward to the wedding. I'm looking forward to it." Thus, I was to open the door to a new life. First, we reported to each other's families. Seeing me so happy, my parents welcomed him warmly. Emma, you haven't told me about your boyfriend for a long time, so I was a little worried that maybe you wouldn't get married. John, please take care of her from now on." When I heard these words, I felt as if I realized for the first time what my parents really thought of me. I realized that parents think a lot of things without saying them. My family had been basically free to do whatever I wanted, so there was no pressure to get married. But it seems that in my parents' mind, there was a wish to see their daughter happily married someday. Knowing such a parent's wish made my heart warm a little. And when I visited John's house for the first time, I met his family with nervous excitement. But his mother and father were both very warm and made me feel very safe. Next, we had dinner with the whole family. While I was looking forward to it, I was also a little nervous, especially because I had heard that John's sister, Melissa, was there. She was only 25 years old, and her choice of words was a little rough at times, which made me a little confused. She asked me, "Emma, you're already at that age. Weren't you getting married too late?" I was a little shocked to hear her say things like, "I would have decided sooner if I were you." But John followed up and we had a nice dinner afterwards. We then planned our wedding and had a happy wedding at a place we loved. We had a lot of friends and family there, and the day was really great. Our honeymoon was so much fun, and when we returned home, we started our new life together. Life together was fresh, and every day was so much fun. We went out on dates and watched movies at home. I felt that newlyweds are really happy. It has been about 2 years since we got married. One day, our peaceful everyday life changed drastically. We received the news that my father-in-law had passed away. Of course, I knew he had health problems, but I had not expected him to pass away so soon. My husband and I were deeply saddened by this sudden news. My mother-in-law's grief was especially deep, and I could feel her emotions as I looked at her. But our surprise was compounded by what we subsequently found out. In fact, my mother-in-law was in deep debt. It was apparently due to the fact that she had been cheated by some unscrupulous person and lost a large sum of money. When we learned of this fact, we could only gape. My husband, with his usual gentle nature, said he wanted to help her somehow. So, we decided to use our shared savings to reduce my mother-in-law's debt as much as possible. I thought it would be too hard for her to bear that heavy debt alone after my father-in-law's death. However, my mother-in-law's reaction was a little unexpected. She said something like, "If I am in trouble again, can I ask John for help?" My husband was a little surprised and replied, "That's a little." My mother-in-law said something positive, "But I'll find a way to get more money somehow." But my husband was worried. "I hope that's not gambling." We kept a watchful eye on my mother-in-law and were on the lookout for any trouble she might get herself into again. In the midst of all this, my husband was suddenly injured and had to be hospitalized. That event also became a big ordeal for my husband and me. Since every day was spent flitting back and forth from the hospital to take care of my husband, I never noticed any changes in my mother-in-law's daily routine. Then one day, after my husband was discharged from the hospital, I decided to pay a little visit to his parents' home. During our first reunion in a long time, I could sense that something had changed in the atmosphere. "Mom, long time no see." My husband greeted her with a smile, and my mother-in-law said, "John, you are getting better. Can you run again?" She smiled at him and said. While smiling at this exchange, my husband began to flip through my mother-in-law's bank book. To his surprise, the money in his mother-in-law's bank book, which we had accumulated after her previous debts had been repaid, was almost completely gone. "What's wrong with this bank book, Mother?" my husband exclaimed in surprise, to which his mother-in-law replied with a slightly embarrassed smile, "You know, I had tea with friends and found a nice little bag. And then I found myself in this mess." She laughed bitterly. With that one word, my husband and I froze in complete surprise. It was as if we had saved money for our mother-in-law's future, and she had spent it happily without a care in the world. my husband couldn't help but say, "Mom, you shouldn't spend it like this. Do you know how much we put our hearts into giving you money for your future?" He said something like that. Seeing my mother-in-law's remorse, we became truly concerned about her future. We suggested that she move in with us to support her life closer to us. When we broached the subject, my mother-in-law's eyes lit up with joy, and she gave up her house and moved into our apartment. Our new shared life together began, and my mother-in-law seemed to enjoy every day of it. The three of us laughed and talked around the table at every meal, and my mother-in-law volunteered to help with the housework, which made life surprisingly easy for both of us. Her upbeat mood was infectious, and our days became brighter and warmer. I said, "Mom, what would you like for lunch today?" I think I'll have udon." "That sounds good." Since I was working remotely, I was in a position to monitor how my mother-in-law spent her money. Since my husband and I, provided her living expenses and my husband managed my mother-in-law's account, there was supposed to be no worry about her spending excessive money. However, we kept a close eye on her, worried that she might spend the money in some way. These days continued, and in no time at all, 6 months passed. One afternoon, while we were relaxing in the living room, the intercom rang. We wondered who it was, and when I answered, I found my sister-in-law, Melissa, standing there. I said, "Melissa, it's been a while. Is my mother there?" I was a little surprised to hear her ask such a question without even saying hello, but I showed her into the living room. "Mom, it's been a while." "Oh, Melissa, what brings you here?" "I just wanted to see your face once in a while." "Thanks, I'm glad you're here. How are you?" "Of course. I'm fine. John is with me." "So, do you want to go to lunch with me?" "Sure, let's go." Melissa must have taken my mother-in-law to a restaurant or something. We decided to wait at home. When they came home in the evening, we looked at them and their faces changed. Then Melissa said, "Emma, you are tormenting my mother, aren't you?" I was surprised and could not understand what she was saying. My mother-in-law also looked at me sternly. My husband said, "What are you talking about? There is no way Emma would do such a thing." He immediately took my side, but Melissa would not budge. "John is being deceived too. Mom says she can't go outside and she hears Emma is saying things inside the house." We could only be amazed. Indeed, there were times when my mother-in-law would ask to go shopping and we would refuse because she would waste money. Also, my mom said you were taking her money. I had to admit that this statement surprised me. Did my mother-in-law think so, or did Melissa blow it that way? In any case, it seemed that Melissa and my mother-in-law had joined together in accusing me. "Now, what do you want from me?" I was about to feel like I was bewitched by a fox. What on earth did they want to tell me? I wondered if they just wanted to say something to me. At that moment, my sister-in-law said something I never thought she would say. She said, "I want you to leave our house. I feel like my mother can't really live happily with you. Because I can't believe you treat my mother-in-law so coldly." Her face clouded over. My mother-in-law looked as if she wanted to say something and turned to me. "If you were gone, I would be able to relax and enjoy my time with John and Melissa." I was surprised by her words, but I could not say anything. In fact, they did not know that I had previously paid off her debts for my mother-in-law by cutting into my savings. Looking back, I probably should have made it clear to them at the time that I had not taken it out as our marital savings, but as my own. When I looked at my husband's face, he looked very angry. His hands were clenched and his body was shaking a little. Melissa said, "My mother and I are going to live here together from now on. So, I want you to leave," my sister-in-law said again. Taking a deep breath for a moment, I answered my sister-in-law, "I understand, but I won't get involved in what happens next." After that exchange, my husband and I decided to leave the house. And on the day we moved out, they were surprised to discover one truth. "Looks like you've made arrangements to move out right away after all." "Yes, I have something to tell Melissa." Yes, what is it? My husband chuckled and said, actually, I'm getting older and I was thinking that I should put the house in Melissa's name. My sister-in-law's eyes sparkled and she said, really? It's going to be my house? She said excitedly. My husband quietly produced the documents for the change of name and said, as long as you sign here, that's all right. My sister-in-law happily said, I can't believe I have my own apartment, and signed it. My husband and I looked at each other stealthily and exchanged smiles at the success of our plan. Well, it's time to start getting ready to leave. What, John? Are you really leaving? Yes, I've decided to leave too. Oh, even John is leaving? Do you really have to leave with Emma? If I'm not with Emma, I don't feel comfortable either. It's normal for married couples to be together. I knew you would say that, but then what are we going to do about future house expenses and stuff? That's something you'll have to devise and pay for on your own. Wait a minute. I quit my job because I believed you would support me, okay? My husband and I could not hide our surprise at my sister-in-law's sudden statement. If you keep this up, you're going to get me and our mother into a lot of trouble. That's fine if you can devise a way to live on your own. You have our mother's pension, and if you save a little, you can manage. Yes, and if you add my pension to that, we can manage. Since you're going to live here, we need to be creative about it. My sister-in-law looked a little satisfied with my mother-in-law's kind words. Indeed. It's my new home. If I save a little money, I should be able to get by. However, my husband and I laughed inwardly at my sister-in-law saying such a thing, not knowing that the property was a rental. About that time, the movers arrived. We welcomed them and began to move more and more stuff out. My sister-in-law and mother-in-law rolled their eyes at the sight. What are you doing? Getting ready to move out. Are you taking everything? Of course. We bought all this stuff. Do I have to buy everything new? That's right. I wish you had known that and acted accordingly. Well, we better get going. My husband smiled and said, and we left the house. My mother-in-law and sister-in-law froze in amazement for a while. After a while, my sister-in-law called my husband's cell phone. She said, hey, John, what's with the rent bill all of a sudden? I was a little mistaken. Could it be that I am not the owner of this house? Who told you about that? Well, I'm actually renting this house. The document you signed at that time, which was the rental agreement. So, it's only natural that you should be charged for the rent. Seriously, I didn't know that at all. It's where you live, so you have to pay the rent. But my salary is not that much compared to you. You may laugh, but Emma actually makes more money than I do. Oh, no. It's true. She is working hard at a remote company that pays pretty well. That's why we were able to live so comfortably in that apartment. My sister-in-law was so surprised that she was speechless for a while. Next, I heard my mother-in-law's worried voice. We're so sorry, she said. I'm really sorry. Could you please reconsider and come back? My husband responded gently but firmly. Thank you, Mother. But it's hard for me to go back because of your attitude toward Emma. She is the most important to me. Please take care of the rest. You will take care of it. After that exchange, I heard various rumors. My sister-in-law and mother-in-law had apparently been forced to look for an apartment after getting tripped up on rent payments. They are now trying to make do in a small apartment that is barely big enough for the two of them to live in, but it is said that they are having financial problems and occasional fights. They are also concerned about the neighbors' eyes on them. John and I have started a new life in our new house. Every day is fun and full of happiness. Building your own home is a very significant event in life. Right after reaching the peak of this joy, my relationship with my husband fell apart. My name is Angela, and I am currently 30 years old. We are a family of 3. My husband, Matt, who is 35, and our 3-year-old daughter, Tracy. We decided to build a house, a dream of ours for a long time. When I talk about this, people might think I am filled with happiness and that everything is going well, and they might even be envious. But that is not the case for me. Recently, I have been preoccupied with our home construction and issues with my in-laws. The beginning of the collapse was when we left our daughter at my in-laws' house. Both my husband and I work, and we are always busy on weekdays, leaving no time for other things. Therefore, we used to spend our weekends looking for real estate and discussing house plans. We usually left our daughter with my parents, who live nearby, because she would get bored and cranky if we took her to the real estate agent. However, one morning, my father fell ill and had to go to the hospital, so he couldn't take care of Tracy. I thought about canceling our plans for the day. Then, my husband suggested, why don't we have my parents look after her? To be honest, I don't have a good relationship with my in-laws. They don't hold back with me. They're Sin's wife, and they say whatever they like. I think it's an old-fashioned attitude. Moreover, I was hesitant to suddenly ask them to take care of a 3-year-old child, but postponing our plans for the day would delay the completion of our house. After some thought, I decided to leave Tracy with my in-laws, just for that day. After finishing our errands, I bought some fancy sweets as a gift and headed to my in-laws' house. We arrived there in the evening, and perhaps because of the sweets, my in-laws welcomed us warmly. After thanking my in-laws and leaving their house, Tracy asked me on the way home, are there rooms for Grandpa and Grandma in the new house? Tracy, why? Oh, did Grandpa and Grandma say that? What did you answer? I said I didn't understand. She then quickly started playing and talking with her penguin stuffed toy. Tracy calls my parents Papa and Nana. Grandpa and Grandma refer to my in-laws. Yeah, you wouldn't understand. Maybe they were curious about where they would stay when they come to our house. At that time, I thought they were probably asking about their room in our new house. From that day on, my in-laws started visiting us more frequently on weekday nights and holidays, when my husband and I were home. We were then living in a small, somewhat old rented apartment while saving money to build our house. My in-laws visited regularly, sat on the dining room sofa, and demanded to see the plans for the house we were building. Before I could stop them, my husband happily started showing them the plans and explaining it to them. I didn't like them visiting, so why did they always pry into the details of our new house? Then, my mother-in-law started bombarding me with questions. It was like a public hearing in the parliament, and the target of these questions was not my husband but me. It's as if the chairperson was giving her the floor. Mother, please go ahead. Looking at this blueprint, the kitchen's location seems impractical. You should change it. Also, increase the number of bedrooms. As we age, we need more space to relax. Moreover, with only one child's room, what will you do if you have more children? Then came my turn to answer. Angela, please. Well, my husband and I have discussed this, followed the appropriate procedures, and the foundation work has already started. It's no longer possible to change the layout. I answered a bit angrily. Then the questions about furniture and appliances continued. My mother-in-law, though just saying it herself, claimed to be an expert on homes. I have many friends, so I've been to various houses and seen many rooms. I have an eye for this. I can immediately tell which rooms are comfortable and which furniture is superior. This room in your house doesn't look comfortable, and I bet your daily lives won't go well either. It's just no good. She really thought highly of her self-proclaimed expertise. She was stinging like a mosquito. When I was about to jokingly suggest making it a multi-generational home and sharing the costs, my in-laws got furious. What a terrible daughter-in-law. Asking parents to pay. I hate multi-generational homes. They're such a complicated mess. That day, my in-laws left promptly. That was refreshing. They're not my parents, so I don't feel obliged to take care of them more than what I'm comfortable doing. That night, after putting Tracy to bed, my husband spoke to me with an irritated look. Don't be cold to Dad and Mom. They're just trying to give us advice because they care about us. What are you talking about? I didn't intend to be rude, but they are much ruder than me. They always interfere in our house matters and speak down to us. It's like they're looking down on me. It's only natural for parents. They're worried and giving us advice, and you're being disrespectful. You're a woman who can understand others' feelings. You should really reflect on yourself. After that, my husband turned his back to me and stopped talking. Of course, he's their son, but we are a separate family. Moreover, we haven't received any financial support from my in-laws. It's extremely rude to interfere without contributing financially. Although my husband told me to reflect, my anger didn't subside. Instead, I was infuriated by the injustice and had trouble sleeping that night. Despite everything, our house was finally completed. Our family was excited to move, but we soon faced a problem in our new home. From now on, my parents will live with us, so the larger room on the second floor will be for my dad, and the smaller one for my mom. Wait, I can't just accept this all of a sudden. We had agreed that one of the second floor rooms would be for Tracy, and we never discussed living together. Besides, your father and mother might say they don't like the rooms, as they always do. There's no way they'd say that. They've already seen the rooms, so don't worry. What do you mean they've seen the rooms? When did this happen? It was the day before our viewing. What? You mean your parents came to see this house the day before our viewing? Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They wanted to see it, so I lent them the keys. There's no problem with them seeing it. They are my parents. After all, my husband said this in an annoyed tone as if the conversation was over and continued working on the TV wiring. What does "they are my parents" after all mean? To me, they are strangers. Not wanting to see my husband's face, I left the kitchen where I was organizing and went upstairs. I closed the door, locked it, and calmed down my raging thoughts. I was grateful that Tracy was at daycare because of the moving, giving me time to think alone. The sudden announcement of living together made me feel disgusted with my husband and in-laws. I didn't want to be in the same space as them, even for a moment. But we had just bought a new house together. Calmly, carefully, I thought hard about what was okay to say and what wasn't. For the bright future of Tracy and I stayed in the room, engraving these thoughts in my mind, waiting for the arrival of my in-laws. As my husband had warned, my in-laws and a moving truck loaded with their belongings arrived in the afternoon. Not even coming to greet us? Parents should be cherished. What's this? You haven't finished unpacking yet. Get it together. After they grumbled a lot, my in-laws entered our new house as if it was natural. I heard this conversation from the second floor, left my room, and headed to the entrance. Father, mother, I was not informed about living together with you two. I was surprised at how calm my first sentence came out. My father-in-law, not liking my tone, immediately criticized me. I already told Matt, so there shouldn't be a problem. There is a problem. I only heard about living with you this morning, and I have no intention of living with you two, who lack basic manners. What are you saying? Matt said it's fine. Do you think it's okay to defy your husband as his wife? Yeah. Such a noisy daughter-in-law. You might as well leave. This is hopeless. I've always felt it, but our way of thinking is too different. I can't have a conversation with my in-laws. As I was thinking about how to respond, my husband hurried over in a panic. What are you doing, Angela? Complaining about my parents like that. Complaining? That's not it at all. I was being unilaterally criticized simply because I'm a daughter-in-law. And at that time, I was being criticized by my husband. I realized again that this father and son share the same way of thinking. I cannot live with your parents. Can't live with them. Don't make me suffer like this. You should listen to me, your husband, right? You are my wife, after all. Besides, this house was originally built for my parents. The house was built for your parents. Surprised by his sudden, nonsensical statement, I couldn't help but laugh inside. Do you intend to force me to obey just because you are my husband? I am a person before I am your wife. Then my father-in-law, who had been listening to our conversation, raised his voice and said, "We don't need a daughter-in-law like this." My husband agreed with him. That's right. It might be better to get divorced if you're going to treat my parents like this. That was the word I had been waiting for. Then, let's get a divorce. I responded nonchalantly. A husband who suggested a divorce. A wife who agreed on it. I hope that the smartphone in my pocket was recording this exchange. I continued the conversation. Since we will be living as strangers from now on, please repay the $350,000 I loaned for the construction of this house immediately, and do the same for the monthly mortgage payments. What? My in-laws exclaimed in surprise. My husband looked at me, his face pale. I had to explain clearly to my confused in-laws. It seems there is a misunderstanding. Matt hasn't paid anything towards the purchase of this house. Not a single penny. This house was built with my money. He has no sense of planning and no savings at all. We both worked and contributed equal amounts for living expenses from our incomes. The rest was supposed to be saved in our respective accounts, but he is a spendthrift and saved nothing. Just a minute, Angela, it's all true, isn't it? Yet when it came to buying the house, you stubbornly wanted it in your name. So, I ended up lending you the money. There's a loan agreement, so you can't lie about it. You're lying, Angela. While my husband and his parents were shocked, I packed Tracy's belongings and mine into suitcases and a duffel bag. Valuables, clothes, Tracy's favorite toys, and clothes. Holding Tracy's cherished penguin stuffed animal in my arms, I loaded them into my car and left the newly built house, where we had lived for only a short time. Then I went to pick up Tracy from daycare and headed to my parents' house. Seeing me suddenly return home in a tracksuit with lots of luggage, my parents were surprised. Sorry for showing up like this. I can look for a hotel if you want. My parents, seeing my hesitation, stopped me and welcomed me kindly. I later learned that my parents were worried that I might do something drastic with Tracy, but I had never thought of such a thing. I had sworn to protect my daughter no matter what. For the time being, I explained the situation to my parents. I told them about my decision to divorce my husband and my intention to definitely take Tracy with me. My parents said they would support us in every way. They also suggested that I stay at their home for a while. This was a great relief to me since I had work obligations. That night, I documented everything that had happened between my husband, his parents, and me. I transferred the audio data of the conversations I had recorded on my smartphone with Matt and his parents to my computer and other media. I visited several law offices with these documents, fully utilizing my paid leave and weekends. I had no regrets about it. Eventually, I found a trustworthy lawyer and formally hired him. A week after leaving the new house, I was leading a busy life. One day, after finishing work, my husband was waiting for me as I left the office. Legally, he was still my husband as the divorce proceedings hadn't been finalized yet, though I could call him my ex-husband. I didn't think there was anything to talk about with him, but fearing his rage, I decided to talk in a public place and went to a cafe with him. Just in case, I turned on the recording function on my smartphone. I asked him calmly, "Do you have something to discuss?" "Yeah. Actually, I want to transfer the house to you. I'll change the ownership. So can we forget about the money issue? I don't want to live in that house. Your parents were in it before us, weren't they? That's in the past. There's no need to worry about it now. I do worry. That's why I don't want that house." I said this and took a sip of my coffee, staring intently at my soon-to-be ex-husband. His hairstyle was disheveled, and his hair had grown in places. He had a stubble beard, and his complexion was not good. He was wearing a suit, but his shirt was wrinkled, unironed, and it seemed like it hadn't been cleaned. I couldn't tell what kind of life he was leading, but he looked very tired. "Please, Angela, I can't pay back such a large sum immediately. You knew it was a large sum when you borrowed it, right? And you remember that I suggested we share the ownership of the house? You insisted it should be in your name. I thought I should be the head of the household, and I wasn't serious about the divorce. I just said it to scare you. Why did you take it so seriously? I am serious. There's no love left, and divorce is the only option. I could have tolerated your lack of responsibility, but having such rude parents as part of the package is out of the question. Angela, please reconsider. I have to pick up Tracy now, so this conversation is over. I'm going. Wait, I'll take care of Tracy. His words gave me an uneasy feeling. After returning to my parents' house, I asked them to be cautious so that Tracy would not be forcefully taken away by Matt or his parents. A few days after my ex-husband appeared, I received a call from the daycare saying that people resembling his parents had come. I immediately left work and went to the daycare. Thankfully, the daycare had been informed about the situation and had kept my in-laws in a separate room to avoid them meeting Tracy. When I entered the room where my in-laws were waiting, they started yelling at me. "Thief, give us our granddaughter back." "What do you mean, thief? I haven't stolen anything. If not theft, then it's fraud. You must have taken the money through some deceitful act. Otherwise, how could someone your age have such a large amount of money?" "No, the money I lent was all mine. It's from what I earned, gifts from my parents, and a pre-inheritance from my grandmother, all legitimate sources." Pre-inheritance. Yes, every year, within the non-taxable limit, they would transfer it to my account. The amount, along with the sale proceeds of stocks in my name and the savings I had accumulated, all of it was your money. Didn't you give any pre-inheritance to Matt? Why not do it now? My father-in-law fell silent, unable to continue. My in-laws were fond of luxury and led a flashy life. As ordinary salaried workers without passive income, they wouldn't have much savings. The concept of pre-inheritance might have been something they never thought of, or perhaps they didn't even know about it. I am divorcing Matt. Please understand. I will take care of Tracy. Please don't come to the daycare again. You're disturbing us. With that, I left with Tracy in the car and returned to my parents' home. Despite my warnings, Matt and his parents continued to come. Each time, I tried to speak calmly and send them away, but there were instances when they grabbed my arm or hurled insults. I recorded all these incidents on my smartphone. About a month after leaving my house, I had my lawyer present my ex-husband with documents regarding the repayment of the loan and the divorce agreement. My ex-husband agreed to most of it, but not about Tracy's custody. However, when I mentioned I would claim compensation if it came to a dispute, he turned pale. I had plenty of evidence, and he couldn't afford to pay. It took time, but eventually, I managed to get the repayment of the loan from my ex-husband. When Tracy's custody, and finalized the divorce. Repayment of the loan from my ex-husband took longer than expected. He had planned to sell the new house and use that money, but the sale was slow. Initially, I thought Matt and his parents would live in the new house, but that wasn't the case. They couldn't pay the purchase price of $350,000. My husband had no savings, and even selling his parents' old house didn't cover the amount. The house was listed for less than the purchase price, and after several price reductions, a buyer finally appeared. The difference in price at the time of purchase and the selling fees were borrowed by my husband from a bank. My husband lost the house and, burdened with debt, had to move into his parents' old house with them. Additionally, Matt's divorced sister returned with her 2 sons, one in middle school and the other in high school. It's rumored among the neighbors that the 6 adults living together in a cramped old house were constantly shouting at each other. This family would likely not bother us anymore. Since they couldn't afford to pay child support, they probably wouldn't visit. 4 years later, Tracy has become a second grader. Now, we live in a rental property near my parents' home. When I work until late, my daughter stays with my parents. Together, we enjoy our time, getting help from them. Moreover, during school breaks, we spend time at my family's vacation home in Hawaii. I thought I'd be fine without marrying again, but I've found a new partner. He is a 36-year-old divorcee with a daughter in 1st grade. We frequently saw each other at the daycare and started dating after many conversations. Recently, the girls and us 4 have been going out together, enjoying our time. Not long ago, Tracy casually mentioned, what if we built a new house where all four of us had our rooms and we could even have a dog? That surprised me for a moment. In fact, just a few days ago, he proposed to me. Though I haven't responded yet, considering the children, my mind is already made up. I hugged Tracy and said, yes, if we can build a new house, let's think about making everyone happy together. My name is Mandy. I am just an ordinary employee working at an ordinary company. Until I became an adult, my grandfather and grandmother supported me. This is because I lost my parents in a car accident when I was very young. Therefore, I don't remember my parents. I've been told that I attended the funeral, but there's no way I could remember because I was only 1 year old. I have a sister and a brother. They are much older than me, so they seem to remember our parents. Given our situation, my grandparents took us in, and I still live with them now. My grandparents are very strict, but they raised us with lots of love. I know that they were strict so that we could grow up to be independent. Despite that, my siblings don't think well of our grandparents. They left home as soon as they went to college and have not returned since. They don't show their faces during Christmas or other holidays, nor do they come back during long vacations. I can't understand why they avoid our grandparents. I personally love my grandparents very much. It's possible that my grandparents thought that I would also leave home, but I have no such intention, and I continue to live happily with them. Looking concerned, my grandmother asked, your brother and sister, I wonder if they are doing well. There's no phone call, and they don't visit. Mandy, have you heard anything from them? I'm sorry, Grandma. I haven't heard anything either. No news might mean that they are doing well without any issues, right? My grandfather asked. Yes, you must be right. My grandparents always did care about my brother and sister. Despite the kindness they received from my grandparents, I wondered how my siblings might be feeling. With a heavy heart, I watched my grandparents worry. Then, one day, it happened. During work, I suddenly received a phone call, and I was told that my grandmother had collapsed. I rushed to the hospital, but the diagnosis later revealed that my grandmother had cancer. What's more, the doctor calmly told us of her limited time left. According to the hospital, her cancer had already metastasized in several places, and a complete removal was now impossible. We visited other hospitals, but every doctor came to the same conclusion, and I had no choice but to accept this sad reality. It was decided that my grandmother would be hospitalized for 3 weeks. During that time, I had deep discussions with my grandfather about the future. Grandpa, I know you might be worried, but are you okay? Yes, I'm okay. We've grown old, and the things that we have to accept and live with have grown with us. Hey, so, about what happens from here. I want to respect Grandma's wishes. But what do you think? Yes, I feel the same as you, Mandy. I want to do as Grandma wishes. Okay, so if Grandma says she wants to come home after being discharged from the hospital, how about we take care of her here? Of course. You don't have to worry, Mandy. I'll take care of Grandma. Thank you. I also want to help, so let's take care of her together. Mandy, thank you, really. This will make Grandma really happy. I made plans with my grandfather and asked my grandmother what she wanted to do. Grandma, what do you want to do after you are discharged? Well, I am thinking of going to a hospice. Why? Why do you want to do that? Your grandma wants to see the ocean from the hospice. What did you used to say before, Grandma? Eh? What are you talking about? You used to say lying is bad, didn't you? What you really want is to come back home, right? But you're probably worried about being a burden on us, but that's not the case. I want to know how you truly feel. Do you want to come back home? Yes, I do. Okay, then let's go home together. Mandy, you are such a kind-hearted person. I am grateful. Afterwards, I discussed the details with my grandfather, and we decided to provide care for grandmother jointly with outside support. When I told my grandmother of our decision, she gave me a satisfied smile. I felt reassured that we would be bringing grandmother back home in addition to having professional support. We received countless support from caregiving experts as we were bewildered by our first experience with caregiving. I feel like their intervention has lightened our load. Since grandmother returned home, grandfather has been enjoying cheerful conversations with her. Watching the two of them warms my heart. Mandy, have you heard from your sister and brother? We haven't really been keeping in touch. Suddenly, grandmother brought up the topic of my brother and sister. Is that so? I want to see them one more time before I leave this world. To fulfill her wish, I first called my sister. What? It's Mandy. I know that. What is it? I hadn't heard my sister's voice in a long time, and it was very cold. Grandma wants to see you. Can you come and visit? I can't. I'm busy. But don't be annoying. If I can't do it, I can't do it. But Grandma doesn't have much time left. Eh? What do you mean? I told my sister the details of grandmother's situation. Hearing this, her attitude changed completely. If that's the case, I'll come to visit. Thank you. I have to tell our brother too. Don't worry, I'll contact him. Eh? But the contact. It's okay. I'll make sure to contact him. Don't worry. Really? Then, can I leave it to you? I got it. A few days later, the two of them returned home for the first time in 13 years. Grandma, are you okay? My sister rushed to our grandmother. My brother was also looking at our grandmother intently. It's really good that you came back. I'm so happy. I'm glad that I could see you before I die. Grandmother was clearly pleased. But the two of them soon left grandmother's side and invited me to a nearby cafe, saying they had something to talk about. Despite their long absence, they hardly spoke with our grandparents. Especially with grandfather, it was just a brief greeting. I couldn't accept their attitude, and I decided to confront them directly. Listen, you should talk more with Grandpa. Why are you ignoring him? Didn't Grandpa write a talk to you? I don't care about Grandpa. More importantly, how much time does— My name is Mandy. I am just an ordinary employee working at an ordinary company. Until I became an adult, my grandfather and grandmother supported me. This is because I lost my parents in a car accident when I was very young. Therefore, I don't remember my parents. I've been told that I attended the funeral, but there's no way I could remember because I was only 1 year old. I have a sister and a brother. They are much older than me, so they seem to remember our parents. Given our situation, my grandparents took us in, and I still live with them now. My grandparents are very strict, but they raised us with lots of love. I know that they were strict so that we could grow up to be independent. Despite that, my siblings don't think well of our grandparents. They left home as soon as they went to college and have not returned since. They don't show their faces during Christmas or other holidays, nor do they come back during long vacations. I can understand why they avoid our grandparents. I personally love my grandparents very much. It's possible that my grandparents thought that I would also leave home, but I have no such intention, and I continue to live happily with them. Looking concerned, my grandmother asked, "Your brother and sister, I wonder if they are doing well." There's no phone call, and they don't visit. Mandy, have you heard anything from them? I'm sorry, Grandma. I haven't heard anything either. No news might mean that they are doing well without any issues, right? My grandfather asked. Yes, you must be right. My grandparents always did care about my brother and sister. Despite the kindness they received from my grandparents, I wondered how my siblings might be feeling. With a heavy heart, I watched my grandparents worry. Then, one day, it happened. During work, I suddenly received a phone call, and I was told that my grandmother had collapsed. I rushed to the hospital, but the diagnosis later revealed that my grandmother had cancer. What's more, the doctor calmly told us of her limited time left. According to the hospital, her cancer had already metastasized in several places, and a complete removal was now impossible. We visited other hospitals, but every doctor came to the same conclusion, and I had no choice but to accept this sad reality. It was decided that my grandmother would be hospitalized for 3 weeks. During that time, I had deep discussions with my grandfather about the future. Grandpa, I know you might be worried, but are you okay? Yes, I'm okay. We've grown old, and the things that we have to accept and live with have grown with us. Hey, so, about what happens from here? I want to respect Grandma's wishes. But what do you think? Yes, I feel the same as you, Mandy. I want to do as Grandma wishes. Okay, so if Grandma says she wants to come home after being discharged from the hospital, how about we take care of her here? Of course. You don't have to worry, Mandy. I'll take care of Grandma. Thank you. I also want to help, so let's take care of her together. Mandy, thank you, really. This will make Grandma really happy. I made plans with my grandfather and asked my grandmother what she wanted to do. Grandma, what do you want to do after you are discharged? Well, I am thinking of going to a hospice. Why? Why do you want to do that? Your grandma wants to see the ocean from the hospice. What did you used to say before, Grandma? Eh? What are you talking about? You used to say lying is bad, didn't you? What you really want is to come back home, right? But you're probably worried about being a burden on us, but that's not the case. I want to know how you truly feel. Do you want to come back home? Yes, I do. Okay, then let's go home together. Mandy, you are such a kind-hearted person. I am grateful. Afterwards, I discussed the details with my grandfather and we decided to provide care for grandmother jointly with outside support. When I told my grandmother of our decision, she gave me a satisfied smile. I felt reassured that we would be bringing grandmother back home in addition to having professional support. We received countless support from caregiving experts as we were bewildered by our first experience with caregiving. I feel like their intervention has lightened our load. Since grandmother returned home, grandfather has been enjoying cheerful conversations with her. Watching the two of them warms my heart. Mandy, have you heard from your sister and brother? We haven't really been keeping in touch. Suddenly, grandmother brought up the topic of my brother and sister. Is that so? I want to see them one more time before I leave this world. To fulfill her wish, I first called my sister. What? It's Mandy. I know that. What is it? I hadn't heard my sister's voice in a long time, and it was very cold. Grandma wants to see you. Can you come and visit? I can't. I'm busy. But don't be annoying. If I can't do it, I can't do it. But Grandma doesn't have much time left. Eh? What do you mean? I told my sister the details of grandmother's situation. Hearing this, her attitude changed completely. If that's the case, I'll come to visit. Thank you. I have to tell our brother too. Don't worry, I'll contact him. Eh? But the contact. It's okay. I'll make sure to contact him. Don't worry. Really? Then, can I leave it to you? I got it. A few days later, the two of them returned home for the first time in 13 years. Grandma, are you okay? My sister rushed to our grandmother. My brother was also looking at our grandmother intently. It's really good that you came back. I'm so happy. I'm glad that I could see you before I die. Grandmother was clearly pleased. But the two of them soon left grandmother's side and invited me to a nearby cafe, saying they had something to talk about. Despite their long absence, they hardly spoke with our grandparents. Especially with grandfather, it was just a brief greeting. I couldn't accept their attitude, and I decided to confront them directly. Listen, you should talk more with Grandpa. Why are you ignoring him? Didn't Grandpa write a talk to you? Eh? I don't care about Grandpa. More importantly, how much time does Grandma have left? What? What do you mean? I mean, how much longer can Grandma live? There's a considerable inheritance, right? At that moment, I understood everything. Ah, I see. They came back because they were after the money. Our grandparents had run a business and amassed wealth. That business was in my grandmother's name. Even a simple calculation revealed that the estate would be enormous. They were eyeing up that inheritance. Why are you zoning out? Tell us how much the inheritance is. I don't know. What? Really? You've always been useless. We shouldn't have called you here. My brother said irritably, expressing his frustration. I felt angry about their scheme, but the truth is, I had no way of knowing how much the inheritance would be. Only Grandpa had that information. Once they realized that they couldn't get the information from me, they left me at the cafe and went off. After that, they began to visit grandmother frequently, but their intent was clear. However, I couldn't bring myself to tell our grandmother the truth. Seeing her filled with joy, I couldn't reveal the harsh reality of the situation to her. I thought I should at least inform Grandpa, but he probably genuinely welcomed their visits. As I was torn with these thoughts, my grandmother passed away peacefully. Only Grandpa and I were with her in her last moments. I had informed my brother and sister that Grandma had gone into critical condition, but they never showed up. Despite the flood of emotions, those of us who were left had no choice but to move forward. I started to arrange the funeral with Grandpa. Many people attended my grandmother's funeral, a testament to the deep relationships that she had forged. My siblings also attended the funeral, but they acted like strangers and offered no help. I could conceal my disgust for them no longer. Although just looking at them made my heart drop, we somehow managed to get through the funeral. After I made my last farewell to grandmother, I thought that things would finally calm down. But the next day, my brother and sister paid us a visit. Their faces were bright and seemed to swell with cheerfulness. As soon as they stepped into the living room, without even a glance at grandmother's photo in the picture frame, my sister bluntly stated, "We need to talk about the inheritance." "Grandma can rest in peace if you talk about such things," Grandpa said. "What? She's not in this world anymore, so it doesn't matter," my sister retorted. "That may be true, but Grandma surely wants peace in heaven too." My sister interrupted. "Like I said, that's not important. Actually, Grandma entrusted me with her will." "Eh?" My sister handed the will to me. The handwriting was unmistakably my grandmother's. I couldn't comprehend how this could be. My eyes involuntarily turned to Grandpa, but he remained surprisingly calm. "Grandma has written that she's leaving all the company shares and the assets to me and your brother. So, we'll inherit the entire $4 million of inheritance." I can't believe Grandma would decide something like that. If you can't believe it, look at this. It's in Grandma's handwriting, isn't it? My sister waved the will at me confidently. Indeed, it was grandmother's handwriting. However, it was inconceivable that grandmother would leave such a one-sided will. Would grandmother really hand over her precious company to these two, who knew nothing about managing it? Especially when Grandpa was still active and playing a significant role. In normal circumstance, how dare you behave like that when I'm begging like this? You should just keep quiet and listen to me. The person who said this to me was my husband, George, whom I always thought was on my side. We worked together and saved up to build a new house. Unexpectedly, George's parents also moved into our new home. I tried my best to ensure that the whole family could live together harmoniously, but I was treated harshly by my in-laws, felt my limit, and sought support from my husband. My name is Emily. I got married at 27 and work part-time at a supermarket. George is 3 years older than me and does not have a large income, but he works hard every day. Ever since we got married 7 years ago, we had a dream of building a new house. George is a typical office worker, and since I'm a part-timer, our combined income only allows us to save a little at a time. Still, we managed to save a certain amount from our monthly salaries and consulted with real estate agents numerous times about whether we could get a mortgage approved. After many trials and efforts, we recently finally started to see concrete progress towards getting a mortgage approved. It seems like the discussions about the mortgage are progressing smoothly, and it's time to carefully decide on the details of the house's interior and design. Yes, we need to think about the children's room and plan the layout of the kitchen and living room. My husband and I were filled with excitement as we imagined our life in the new home together. I'm really looking forward to starting our new life. As we had these conversations, our plan for the new house gradually took shape. The sense of achievement and joy we felt during this process was indescribable. While the house was being built, George and I visited the construction site together numerous times to check on the progress. The time spent discussing whether to get new furniture and appliances for the new house and exploring various options was exciting. Hey, how about we take this opportunity to move into the new house and get a bigger refrigerator? If our family grows in the future, we might need a larger, family-sized fridge. That's true. Our family structure might change, and a bigger fridge would be better. We began considering buying a refrigerator with more functional space in anticipation of a growing family. That's right. And I've been thinking about the children's room. Is it too early to prepare a baby bed and toys? What do you think? My husband and I discussed our future family plans and preparations for the children's room. It might be a bit early, but it's not bad to prepare systematically. For now, we could keep the children's room as an empty space and start preparing when necessary. Indeed, there's no need to rush decisions. How about we visit a nearby electronics store tomorrow and take our time to look at various products? Yes, that's a wonderful idea. Let's discuss and carefully choose what we need and what's best for us. As we engaged in these pleasant conversations, it felt like time flew by, and before we knew it, our long-awaited home was finally completed. That day, we stood in front of our splendid new home, filled with hope for the future and the happy days to come, contemplating the infinite possibilities it offered. While talking to the real estate agent, a moving truck from a delivery company suddenly stopped in front of our new home. We went to greet them, but were surprised by who stepped out. It was George's parents, my in-laws. Why were they here? Perhaps they had planned a special surprise, and while I was momentarily confused, I looked at George's expression. He approached his parents with a warm smile. He must have known in advance that they were coming. Feeling a bit perplexed, I gently asked George about the situation. George, if you knew your parents were coming, it would have been nice to tell me in advance. I was really surprised. George, looking somewhat apologetic, replied calmly, "Sorry, Emily, I completely forgot to mention it. But now that we'll be living together, I think it's good for us to be more open and not too reserved with each other." What are you saying? Surely, you don't mean we'll be living together with your parents? I must have forgotten to mention it. They're just leaving their stuff today and will come to stay with us in 3 days. Let's go and greet them together. Wait, I didn't hear about this. This is our house, isn't it? Why would you make such an important decision on your own? I'm really sorry. But for now, my parents are waiting, so let's at least go greet them. Even though George urged me to greet my in-laws, I was still in shock after hearing the news, and their words didn't sink in. My in-laws spoke to me with a big grin on their face, but I couldn't comprehend the reason behind it. George, Emily, congratulations. What a wonderful home you have. Yes, it's exciting to think about living together. Did you already know you were going to live with us starting today? I would have appreciated even a word of consultation with me beforehand, I asked quietly but with clear dissatisfaction. Emily, they came all the way here to celebrate our new home. What's the point of bringing that up now? We no longer have the option of not living together, so we have to accept it and move forward, George said, trying to reason with me gently. I was not informed until this moment that my in-laws had canceled their previous living arrangements as our house plan progressed. Faced with the fact that they were now homeless, I lost my words to argue. While I was still in shock, everyone entered the new house, and the conversation about room assignments began. I intend to give this room to my parents. What do you think? George showed us into the room we had planned for our future child. Wait a minute. George, are you serious? This is the room we agreed to make into a nursery after so many discussions. I couldn't hide my anger. That's right, Emily. But after talking to my parents, we decided they would use this room, George explained calmly. Why would you make such an important decision without consulting me? I said, outraged. I'm sorry, Emily. From now on, we'll make sure to discuss important matters with the whole family. Please forgive us just this time. I'm truly sorry. My in-laws apologized, and I was left speechless. 3 days passed, and my in-laws actually moved in. Despite my deep distrust of my husband and in-laws, I realized it was too late and reluctantly started life together. This new life was a series of difficulties. My in-laws did not help with any housework. When I returned home from work, they were relaxing in the living room watching TV. The house was always a mess. Cooking, cleaning, and laundry were all my responsibilities. Even with chores for 2, it was challenging, but for 4, it was overwhelming. Emily, there's a pile of laundry to do, so please take care of it today. And when you hang the clothes, make sure to smooth out the wrinkles. Emily, it would be helpful if you could prepare dinner and the bath earlier. I want to bathe by 6 p.m., and I prefer the food to be a bit saltier. Faced with such detailed requests daily, I endured the first week. But the thought of this continuing made me unable to bear it any longer, and I decided to have a serious talk with my in-laws. Father, Mother, I have something to discuss with you. I'm questioning why all the housework is left to me. I have a job too, and I would like my husband to share some of the chores. If you have time since you're retired, could you please help with some housework? What are you saying? Housework is the wife's duty. And it's unacceptable to talk to your in-laws that way. I used to handle all the household chores myself, so it's just natural we expect you to do all the housework too. Overwhelmed by their strong tone, I couldn't respond. That night, after my husband returned home, I talked to him about what had happened. Today, I suggested that your parents help with some of the chores, but it upset them greatly. Honestly, handling chores for 4 people is really tough. I need your help. Are you serious? Considering the hours and income we bring in, it's only natural for you to handle the chores. How could you push them onto my parents? Use this opportunity to learn the basics of housework from my mom. The moment I heard my husband's words, I strongly felt that I had no allies in this family. That's when I decided to leave the house. The next day, on my day off, I planned to leave before dawn and packed everything overnight. In the morning, I went to the living room to talk to my husband, and all 3 of them were already gathered there. I took this opportunity to express my decision to them. I have something to tell you. I find it difficult to continue living together as we have been. Therefore, I have decided to return to my parents' house. What's wrong? We've talked and reflected on yesterday's matter. Can you forgive us? Emily, I'm truly sorry. From now on, let's cooperate and share the household chores. I went too far yesterday. Sorry. Is that so? Perhaps I was a bit impulsive as well. Let's try to fix our household together as a family. After receiving apologies from George and my in-laws, it seemed for a moment that the situation was resolved. However, their attitude did not change that day, or did it the day after, breaking their promise. Disappointed by this, I decided once again to leave the house. I can't stand this anymore. Since there is no change, I'll actually return to my parents' house. I declared and left. I was utterly fed up with the commotion they were causing in the neighborhood. Has anyone seen my wife? We can't get in touch with her. Emily, where are you? Please, come back. Could she have encountered some incident? Let's report it to the police. Unable to leave them in their uproar, I reluctantly returned home. Despite this, their behavior showed no signs of improvement. And feeling my mental and physical limits, I secretly left the family again. The next day, staying at my parents' house, I received a call from an unknown number. It was from the police, informing me that a missing person report had been filed by them, which was shocking. I explained the situation to the police, but they said they couldn't intervene in domestic affairs and advised me to try to have a calm discussion, which I couldn't ignore, so I returned to that unbearable everyday. One day, struggling to endure daily life, my mother-in-law had invited her sister to our house. Upon returning home, unaware of this, my mother-in-law rushed me to prepare dinner. Emily, welcome back. Sorry for the sudden request, but my sister is visiting. Could you make dinner a bit special? She's expecting something different from our usual menu. I'm unprepared for this sudden request. If you had informed me earlier, enough with the excuses. Just go shopping and don't keep our guest waiting. During this conversation, my mother-in-law's sister seemed to sense something from our exchange. She mentioned that she was told we had a very close relationship and there were no issues between my mother-in-law and me, and she was invited to taste the exceptional cooking she had heard about from my mother-in-law. Hearing this, it was only natural for her to be confused by the tension between us. Though I had no intention of cooperating with my mother-in-law's pretense, I couldn't be rude to her sister who came over, so I reluctantly started preparing the meal. I'll manage with what we have. Why would you do that when my sister has come to visit? Go shopping now and prepare something proper. You lack planning skills, and while we're chit-chatting here, the chores are piling up. I can't stand this anymore. Why do I have to listen to all this? If you're not going to help, at least stay quiet. Reaching my limit, I retorted, forgetting my mother-in-law's sister was there. I went to George's room and relayed everything. Hey, why is your mother so arrogant? Try talking to her to calm her down. When we have a guest, it's the wife's duty to provide appropriate hospitality. Why are you talking to my mom like that? Your behavior is the problem. That's why she set up this situation as part of your education. If you're so dissatisfied, you're free to leave this house. While saying this, George showed me the divorce papers he had pulled out from somewhere. You say that, but you haven't signed it yet. You would be in trouble without me, wouldn't you? It's all just talk. Really, you never know when to keep your mouth shut. Whether you're here or not doesn't matter to me. Look, I've signed them, so please leave now. The moment I got the divorce papers, I was so happy I could have jumped for joy. I immediately signed the divorce papers and packed all my valuables into a bag. Our heated argument was loud enough for my mother-in-law, her sister, and unexpectedly, my father-in-law, who had returned, to hear everything. As I tried to leave, my in-laws, realizing they would be in trouble without me to handle the chores, desperately tried to stop me. Emily, what's wrong? Calm down. Let's talk it over with everyone. I'm really sorry about what happened earlier, Emily. George, you should apologize too. Just leave her be. It was pointless trying to teach her anything, so let her go. George's harsh words had no effect on me now that I had the divorce papers in hand. Ignoring all three of them, I left the house with just one bag and headed straight to the city hall to file for divorce. Once the papers were accepted for processing, I finally felt like I was freed from those nightmare-like days. I went directly to my parents' house to talk about what had happened and my plans for the future. I shared my thoughts on suing the three of them, starting a new life on my own, close to my job, and seeking a bit of support from my parents for this transition. They warmly welcomed me, appreciated my efforts, and offered words of comfort. I resolved not to cause any more worry or trouble for my parents and to completely sever ties with those three. A week later, I went to the house where I used to live with George and his parents, who were not there, leaving just George and me to talk. I thought you'd come back soon, but you're quite persistent. I'm willing to forgive you if you apologize. What do you say? I didn't come here to apologize. I've handed in the divorce papers, so I can say we are strangers now. Please don't act so superior. I'm going to ask for alimony and a division of property. You came back just to act all high and mighty? You've caused me trouble and now you're demanding money? What are you planning? From now on, I'll avoid direct contact with you all and handle everything through a lawyer. All your actions towards me have been recorded in videos and diaries. I'm prepared to take legal action if you refuse to pay. I came here today just to inform you of that. Goodbye. After finishing what I had to say, I ignored George's attempt to argue and left. Later, I learned about George and his family's situation through my lawyer. It seemed that after filing for divorce, they planned to stay in the previous residence. But that plan fell through due to the significant mortgage on the newly built house. George owned the house, and during our life together, George's salary went towards daily expenses, while my salary was allocated to the mortgage and other expenses. After I left, their financial situation worsened. George sought support from his parents, who had sold their previous home, but it seemed they did not use the proceeds for living expenses. Their spending vastly exceeded expectations, with expensive cars, brand bags, and frequent golf outings, resulting in almost no funds left. As a result, George struggled with the monthly mortgage payments. After receiving several reminders from the real estate agent, George, after consulting with his lawyer, decided to sell the newly built house to repay the mortgage. However, the house sale process did not go smoothly. After I left, the house became a mess, resulting in widespread dirt and damage, with tobacco odors and stains, requiring significant cleaning costs. The house was eventually sold, but the amount was significantly lower than expected. With the remaining mortgage debt and the alimony payments to me, George ended up with a substantial debt. Hearing this from the lawyer and learning that George and his parents were trying to make ends meet in a cheap apartment, I felt a moment of sympathy but quickly dismissed it. Considering their past actions, I felt this was only natural considering how they treated me. Once the alimony payments were completed, I planned to completely cut ties with them. However, one day George unexpectedly showed up at my apartment, where I was living alone. Despite changing my contact information and not sharing my address, he managed to find me. How did you find out my address? I haven't told anyone. I tracked you down using your workplace as a starting point. I really needed to talk to you. What? That's really creepy. I have nothing more to discuss with you. Please leave. Don't say that. Please listen to me for a bit. I beg you. I want to start over. Without you, I'm truly lost. Do you understand what you're saying? Who would want to get remarried with you? Leave now. Please. You're the only one we can rely on now. George then shared his current dire situation with me. He had accumulated a huge debt due to the mortgage and the alimony he owed me. That stress led him to gambling and drinking, increasing his debts even further. His attitude, seeking my sympathy, made it clear that he was trying to use me, and I felt no compassion for them, so I decided to send him away immediately. I understand the situation, but I have no intention of supporting you. Please leave. I'm begging like this, and you still won't help. You're pretending to be humble now, but in reality, you're just trying to use me, right? I can't trust you anymore. Goodbye. As I was about to close the door, George suddenly grabbed my arm, showing his true colors. How dare you behave like that when I'm begging like this? You should just keep quiet and listen to me. Suddenly, George's attitude changed drastically as he started yelling. Hearing the commotion, a neighbor called the police, and the situation was somehow resolved. I was deeply concerned that they knew where I lived. Unfortunately, my fears were confirmed when George found out my address, and his parents also came to my house. I talked to them through the locked door. There's nothing to discuss. Please leave. Emily, please. We have no one else to turn to. We were family once, so I'm asking for your support. Emily, help us. We're at a dead end. Let's live together as a family again. Stop always asking for favors. I won't engage with you, and if you continue to make a scene, I'll call the police. How can you say such things to your former in-laws? Don't you have any gratitude or sense of duty towards us? That's right. That's right. Come out here. You should just do as we say. While saying this, they banged on the door violently and kept ringing the doorbell, almost breaking it. Feeling overwhelmed, I finally decided to call the police. After the police took them away, I had the chance to talk to an officer. I explained the entire situation and my current circumstances, and they subtly suggested that I move. It was something I had been considering since George's visit, and I began to seriously contemplate moving. I contacted my parents and decided to stay with them for the time being. I was grateful to my parents for welcoming me with open arms. I also explained the situation to my workplace and requested an adjustment in my working hours, which was readily accepted. I was thankful for their understanding and felt fortunate to have such a supportive workplace. After moving and having my working hours adjusted, I no longer worried about the three of them knowing my location and started enjoying peaceful days. Additionally, my work at the supermarket, where I was employed part-time, was recognized, and I was invited to join the launch of a new branch as a full-time employee. Since the new job is in a different area, I have no concerns about encountering the three of them and feel fulfilled in my work every day. With the salary increase, I've been able to smoothly repay the money I borrowed from my parents, who are very pleased with my current situation. Meanwhile, from what I've learned through my lawyer, George and his parents' situation hasn't improved. The apartment where the three of them, incapable of handling household chores, live is in disarray, causing complaints from neighbors. They continue to struggle with hard labor while unable to break their habits of gambling and drinking, leading to increasing debt and a continuation of their difficult lives. I remind myself that one's actions always return to you, and am determined to maintain my fulfilling life by working hard every day. Can you go back to your parents' home? My parents are going to live in this house. What are you talking about? I don't understand. I truly didn't understand what my husband meant. Even though I contribute $2,000 for monthly living expenses, what will he do without me? However, this turned out to be a good thing for me. The next day, I quickly contacted a recycling company. If my husband was plotting something, I had my ways too. What do you think you're doing? Huh? It's none of your business how I dispose of my own belongings, right? I am Liana, a 32-year-old office worker. I married Danny, my husband, quite recently. We met at a group dating event. He approached me aggressively, and I gradually became attracted to him, which led to us dating. Our relationship went smoothly for about 2 years, and then he proposed to me. As I was in my early 30s and hoping to marry, I was very happy when he proposed. I immediately said yes, and we decided to get married. Then we quickly planned to greet each other's parents. When I introduced him to my parents, they were relieved to see he was a decent office worker. Please take good care of our daughter. Yes, I will definitely make her happy. I was happy when he said that confidently. He was fun and considerate, so I thought our married life would be enjoyable. After that, we went to greet his parents. I don't want to remember much about that day. Right from the introduction, his parents didn't seem impressed. Nice to meet you. I'm Liana. Danny, welcome back. It must have been tough walking in the heat, right? I have some cold drinks prepared. Sit down and drink. Oh, I didn't realize you brought a friend, haha. Mom, I brought Liana, my fiancé, today. Oh, sorry, haha. You're so lucky to marry Danny. His mother suddenly said that. Ignoring my greeting at our first meeting, I wondered if she was making fun of me. Then we were led to the living room, and I greeted his father, but he didn't respond at all, just talking to Danny. Without mentioning our marriage, they talked about family matters only they understood for over an hour, leaving me out of the conversation. So, I ended up leaving without having much conversation with his parents. Since his parents were so cold, I asked Danny if he had told them about our intention to get married. I did, he said, but their attitude was too unfriendly. I felt really uncomfortable. That's why I didn't want a meeting between both of our families. Feeling very anxious, I eventually arranged one. I had already warned my parents about his parents. Thanks to that, my parents managed the conversation well. His parents were still unfriendly, but my parents asked questions that drew them out, praising their answers, which seemed to put them in a better mood, and they became more talkative. As a result, the first meeting over a meal ended pleasantly, and I felt relieved. I was truly grateful to my parents for trying so hard for their daughter. Later on, we had our wedding without any issues and finished our honeymoon, starting our life together. We submitted our marriage registration, and we officially became husband and wife. Then, our married life began. Even the trivial things in married life felt enjoyable. Since we hadn't lived together before marriage, everything was fresh. I felt enveloped in happiness every day. I'm home. Welcome back. I made dinner. Oh, what's on the menu today? It's your favorite, Danny. It's steak. Steak. Awesome. I'll get changed and come right away. We enjoyed our married life every day. Although both of us were working, Danny sometimes cooks simple meals, which I appreciated. I had often heard that wives usually bear the brunt of household chores after marriage, but thankfully, that wasn't the case for me. I felt really glad to have married him. That was how we were living a happy married life. However, about a year after marriage, Danny's attitude changed drastically and became cold. At first, I didn't notice, but our conversations began to dwindle. Today, something happened at work. Are you listening to me? I guess so. What kind of response is that? Indeed, Danny completely ignored my stories, and our conversations gradually faded. During meals, he hardly spoke, and the silence grew. Then, perhaps frustrated with this situation, Danny started working overtime more often and returned home considerably late. He also began to go out for drinks more often, coming home drunk. I couldn't understand why our relationship had suddenly deteriorated. Had I done something to upset Danny? Or had his feelings for me cooled off just after a year? Thus, my days were filled with anxiety and confusion. Danny was coming home late, and we hardly had any proper conversations. I wondered if our relationship would continue to deteriorate and lead to divorce. Amidst these thoughts, one day, he suddenly said to me, "Hey, how about we go out to eat somewhere today?" What happened all of a sudden? No, I was just thinking we haven't really had a good talk recently. Work has been busy, and I've been feeling down. Sorry for being cold. Danny apologized like that. It's okay. Well, I was quite worried, but I forgive you since you apologized. Thank you. I'll be more careful from now on. I was happy that Danny apologized. If things had remained in a bad state, we might have ended up divorcing. That day, we went to a restaurant and enjoyed delicious food and drinks. We had a great time talking about various things, just like before we were married. I thought we might be able to enjoy a happy married life like before. After that, Danny started valuing our time together, and it felt like we went back to our old days. He came home early, and our conversations during meals were enjoyable. So, I was completely reassured. In the midst of those days, Danny made a suggestion. There's a new apartment building coming up that seems convenient for commuting and has a lovely interior. How about moving there? He said that and showed me the brochure for the property. Indeed, it was a very nice place, as Danny described. At that time, we lived in the apartment I used to live in alone. The commute from the apartment was all right, and it was spacious enough for two. Our home appliances were relatively new, so we decided to start our married life in this apartment. However, now that it's been about a year and a half since we got married, it might be time to consider moving, especially if we plan to have a family in the future. The rent for the apartment Danny suggested is $1,400 per month. It's quite expensive, but if we each contribute $700 and save on groceries, we should be able to afford it. I agreed with Danny's proposal and hurried the contract procedures. A few months later, we moved into the completed apartment. It was spacious with many rooms, beautiful, and seemed very comfortable to live in. Danny really liked it and seemed satisfied. It was an extremely comfortable and pleasant place. Equipped with a complete kitchen, I could enjoy cooking every day. Danny and I were spending joyful time together in our new home. However, about a month later, something bothered me. "Hey Danny, about this month's rent, your part hasn't been deposited into our joint account, right?" Really? Oh, I thought I had transferred it. There's a deadline for payment, so please transfer it soon. Sorry, I thought I had already transferred it and ended up spending on other things. Can you cover this month for me? I'll pay it back soon, sorry. Please make it quick. I paid the full rent from my salary then. It was the first time I saw Danny not keeping such a promise, so I thought he would pay me back soon. However, after 2, then 3 weeks passed. Danny still hadn't paid me back, and it was already time for the next rent payment. "Hey, you haven't paid me back for last month's rent yet. Do I have to pay the full $1,400 this month?" That's unreasonable. But we agreed to split the rent each month. Well, we made a promise, but it's not easy, right? No, it's a promise, so don't make excuses and just keep it. I'm working hard every day, so don't be so harsh. Working hard? If he was working hard, he should cooperate in paying the rent for us as a couple. Then, can you set aside the rent from your salary in advance? All right. I wonder if he really understood. My trust in Danny dropped significantly. Besides, I was paying for all living expenses, including food and utilities. I was saving as much as possible. So even with rent, the total came to about $2,000, but it's hard to pay all that with just my salary. However, Danny never paid the rent again. It turned out he only paid for the first month after we moved. One day, something unforgivable happened. It was on my holiday when Danny was out for work, and I was cleaning the house. As I was vacuuming around the house, I found something in Danny's room. Did he have luxury brand clothes? Danny had bought luxury brand clothes without my knowledge. Clothes he had never worn in front of me. So, I didn't even know he had bought them. But what upset me the most was that he bought such expensive items while not paying the rent or living expenses. As soon as Danny came home, I confronted him. "Hey, what is this?" It's my clothes." "What's the problem? Why are you buying luxury brand clothes? Why not?" "I can buy whatever I want with my salary." "Yes, you can. But you said we would share expenses like rent and groceries, and you haven't paid." "When will you pay?" "I'll pay when I can." "Isn't your priority wrong? If you can afford luxury clothes, then pay the rent." Danny retorted to my words. "What's the problem? It's fine, isn't it? To me, these clothes are more important. Your salary is also part of our income, so you paying the entire rent is the same as us paying it together." I was amazed at how self-centered his statement was. "It's not the same. I'm making an effort to save while you just buy whatever you want. Don't you care about our home?" Danny and I had a big fight for the first time in a while. He stormed out of the house in rage. Maybe we both needed some time to cool down. After Danny left, I searched his room again. I found a receipt for a luxury brand bag for women in his desk drawer. The date was over a month ago. I had no memory of being given such a bag, and my birthday had passed 2 months before. At that time, we only enjoyed a meal at a slightly upscale restaurant. Moreover, I paid for it. I haven't received anything from Danny. I finally understood. Danny was probably giving gifts to another woman. That's why he didn't pay the rent and didn't contribute to living expenses. So, I hired a detective agency. About 3 days later, Danny returned home as if nothing had happened. However, I couldn't greet him as I used to. I didn't say welcome back or talk to him. Danny, sensing my anger, didn't try to start a conversation either. In my mind, I was thinking of ending our marriage depending on the results from the detective agency. About 2 weeks later, I received the results from the agency. As expected, Danny was having an affair. Moreover, the other woman was his former girlfriend. Before marriage, he mentioned having a long-term relationship with a woman, and it seemed she was the one he was having an affair with. The affair matched the period last year when Danny became cold toward me. He had been cheating since then. I was filled with rage. The sudden kindness from Danny, who had been cold, was probably to make me bear all household expenses, allowing him to freely spend his salary, pretending our marriage was good. I was skillfully used by him. This was something I couldn't forgive. I decided to take revenge on him. In the midst of this, Danny came home from work and made an unbelievable proposal. My parents are going to live in this house, so can you go back to your parents' home? What are you talking about? I don't understand. After our fight, I went back to my parents' house, and they told me to break up with such a woman. They said they were moving to this apartment and suggested we live together. So, I've decided to live here with my parents and you need to move out. I couldn't believe what Danny was saying. Even though I contribute $2,000 for monthly living expenses, what will he do without me? However, this turned out to be a good thing for me. Understood? Perhaps our relationship can't be repaired. If that's the case, I'll leave. When I said that, Danny laughed happily and said, "I'll come back after you leave," and left. The next day, I quickly contacted a recycling company. Since he was plotting something, I had my ways too. A few days later, I had the recycling company assess all the furniture and appliances and sold everything. It turned out to be an unexpected windfall of hundreds of dollars. Then, I packed my belongings and went back to my parents' house. Danny had prepared a divorce form, so I signed it and submitted it to the city office promptly. This meant Danny and I would then lead completely separate lives. When I told Danny the moving out was done, he said cheerfully, "Oh, that was fast. Let's both be happy," and hung up. However, a few days later, Danny called me again. "Hey, what do you mean by this? We're already divorced. Do you need something? Where did all the furniture and appliances go? You can't just take them. It's my right to do whatever I want with my belongings, isn't it? All the furniture and appliances in the house are what I've been using since my single days. I've already had them taken away by the recycling company. So, I have to buy new ones then. Do you have that kind of money? You're kidding me. I work too, you know? Well, but that apartment costs $1,400 per month in rent, right? Plus, living expenses for 3 adults will be around $2,200 to $2,300 a month. It costs that much. Yes, I've been paying about that much all along. That I can afford that with my salary. Maybe. Well, no more money for your girlfriend then. What? I know everything about your affair with your ex-girlfriend. I'll be claiming compensation for that, so be prepared. I'll contact you through a lawyer. Bye. Wait a minute. I hung up without listening to him. Afterward, through a lawyer, I proceeded with the process of claiming compensation from Danny and his affair partner. Danny was ordered to pay a compensation of $30,000 but ended up in debt as he had no savings. As expected, he soon found it difficult to pay the living expenses and rent, and it seemed he had to leave the apartment. His parents' house had already been sold, so they had no place to return to and are now living in a small, cheap apartment as a family of 3. When I was contributing financially, there was a sense of economic ease. But after the divorce, Danny was left with nothing, and his relationship with his affair partner couldn't be maintained. As a result, it seems our relationship naturally came to an end. Danny begged me for reconciliation, crying, but I ignored everything and even blocked his calls. The compensation is to be paid in installments, and if the payments are delayed, his salary might be garnished, so it's unlikely he will miss any payments. Meanwhile, I plan to commute from my parents' house and start saving the money I couldn't save before. The marriage was a failure, but I take it as a lesson and intend to use this experience in my future life. My name is Lucy. Currently, I live with my husband, Alex, in the same house with his parents. We bought this house 3 years after we got married, but soon after we moved in, Alex's parents suddenly showed up saying, "We can't thank you enough for buying a house for us." They brought a lot of luggage, and there was even a moving truck parked behind. As I stood there in shock, Alex nonchalantly walked past me and said, "Dad, Mom, I've been waiting. Come in." Alex's mother said to me, "Lucy, we're counting on you from now on," and proceeded into the house. However, seeing the amount of their luggage, I felt they intended to live here, so I quickly asked Alex, "What's going on?" In response to my question, Alex said, "What's so strange? We bought this house to live with my parents, so I brought them here." I was shocked. I had once mentioned the possibility of living with my parents to Alex, but I had never touched on the subject of living with his parents. Moreover, why did the situation of living with his parents suddenly arise? I was terribly confused. Living with my parents was also a plan for the future, not something immediate. And why did Alex invite his parents without discussing it with me? I asked Alex this when I saw his parents starting to bring their luggage into the room. He seemed to understand that he hadn't discussed living together with me, scratching his cheek and saying, "Well, if we're going to live together, I'd rather it be with my own parents. Otherwise, wouldn't your parents take over this place?" I was so surprised that I just replied, "Huh?" When I had talked about living with my parents, he had agreed. But perhaps he had agreed then just to avoid a confrontation with me. And by inviting his parents first, he prevented my parents from moving in. What are you really thinking? You agreed before when I said my parents would eventually live with us, but now you suddenly brought your own parents. Are they really going to live here? I've been thinking a lot too, but you didn't wait for my response and rushed for an answer, so I couldn't say no at that moment. I didn't rush you at all. I just asked for your opinion. I wanted to live with my parents. Then you should have made that clear when I brought up the topic of living together. Stop acting like a child. Living with Alex, I've realized that he has a very childlike personality. Whenever I do something, he comes over curious, asking, "What are you doing?" Maybe children are easier to deal with. If a child shows interest in household chores, you can suggest, "Want to try?" and they might engage. But Alex asserts, housework is not a man's job. I thought that dealing with a childish adult might be more troublesome than an actual child. Apparently overhearing our argument, my mother-in-law started keeping my distance, advising, "Lucy, you might feel dissatisfied over trivial matters between husband and wife, but some compromise is necessary." I sensed a demand in her words. My in-laws seem to view me merely as an appendage to their son. If they think I'm just an accessory making a fuss about not wanting to live together, her behavior makes sense. From my perspective, Alex is the accessory, but they don't seem to see it that way. My mother-in-law was eager to help with household chores, but their attitude was grating on my nerves. This situation continued, and as I pondered how to respond to their attitude, Alex's sister, Kate, visited. Kate is 5 years younger than me, already married 3 times and currently living with a new husband. When I returned home, Kate was already there. "Welcome back, Lucy. I heard about it. You stood up to my brother and tried to kick our parents out of this house," she said. I was shocked and looked sharply at Alex sitting beside me. Why would Alex tell such a lie? Is it to make me look like the enemy? Alex wilted under my gaze, averting his eyes. If he feels awkward, he shouldn't have chosen words that blame me in the first place. Then Kate, who had been observing, stood up as if to protect Alex. "Lucy, if you're going to make such a face, please leave. Just as I heard, you are a demon wife. It's bad for prenatal education to have you around." Being suddenly told to leave, I was confused about which part of the house she was referring to. For a moment, I thought she wanted me to leave Alex's room where he was enjoying conversation with his sister, but that didn't seem to be Kate's intention. She stroked her belly and said, "I'm planning to give birth in my hometown. So, Lucy, I don't want you in the house. At least until my child comes into this world." Confused, I replied, "What do you mean? Wow, Lucy, that face is scary. No wonder my brother avoids you. You might be close to getting divorced. Kate was teasing me with a smirk on her face. When I looked towards Alex, he was avoiding my gaze, looking down. Even if the other person is a dear sister, anyone would stop her from criticizing their wife. However, just as Kate pointed out, maybe Alex is getting tired of me. But being told such things, my interest in him also wanes. I can't forgive him for inviting his parents to live with us without my permission and for speaking ill of me to his parents and sister. His attitude seemed to belittle me. Why should I continue to treat such a person with affection? I felt my feelings for him growing cold. And since there was no room decided, I'll be using your room. Please organize your belongings. Now, big brother, say something too. It's been hard for you because of the demon wife, right? Alex hung his head at Kate's words but stood up, pulled up by her forceful hand. Prompted by her, he gave a strained smile and said, "My important sister is going to give birth here, so we don't need you. You can sleep on the streets or something." Reflecting on the 3 years of marriage, I took a deep breath and replied, "All right." Kate exclaimed with joy, raising both hands. "Really? I'm so happy." Alex let out a sigh of relief, as I didn't respond with anger. However, in my heart, I decided to give appropriate punishment to Alex, Kate, and my in-laws. One evening, during a family dinner, I presented Alex with divorce papers. His face was a picture of surprise. "Sign the divorce papers. You want me to leave this house, right? If you don't sign, I'll stay here." "If that's the case, big brother, why don't you sign?" But in the end, I think Lucy won't file them. I often use that trick too. Get them to sign, and if you don't want to divorce, just follow along. It seemed Kate had used these papers in the past to manipulate situations to her advantage. Such a person is bound to be divorced, I thought, but she seemed oblivious. Alex, accepting Kate's suggestion, signed the divorce papers without hesitation. It bothered me that he misunderstood my intention, thinking I presented the papers just as a threat. Normally, such documents aren't presented without the intention to divorce. However, getting his signature so easily made me feel a bit lighter. Now, I could take full revenge on them. The divorce was finalized, and I promptly organized my belongings. At that time, Kate was back home, confirming her plans for childbirth. Hence, she said she didn't intend to come to the house until my belongings were properly stored and the room was cleaned. As a result, I was diligently packing up after returning from work. In the meantime, I found and signed a lease for an apartment suitable for singles and began the process of selling the house. After moving my necessary belongings to the new apartment, I visited my in-laws' house. There, I found Alex, Kate, and my in-laws, all 4 of them together. Knowing that my father-in-law and Alex would be off work that day, and that my mother-in-law and Kate didn't work, I decided to visit when all of them were present. My sudden visit surprised all 4 of them. Moreover, when I arrived, 3 of them, except Kate, seemed to have been enjoying alcohol since the afternoon. In their presence, Alex was saying, "Lucky that woman left. She thought if she got angry, everything would go as she wanted. She acted so arrogantly, troubling me." My mother-in-law responded, "Indeed, Lucy had a somewhat difficult personality." The reason I was angry with Alex was that he started living with his parents and even made me leave the house for his sister, all without discussing it with me. I was angry because of his unreasonable actions. However, it seems within the in-laws family, I am somehow perceived as the bad one. Listening further, remember the girl I introduced earlier? It seems he started dating her, but she's a better match than the previous sister-in-law, right? I think a more adorable woman suits my brother better. They discussed his shocking affair. If their relationship started a week ago, that was when I was already proceeding with the divorce, so I guess it won't be an issue of infidelity. But still, his actions infuriated me. I briskly opened the room door and checked the faces of the chatting in-law family. The 4 of them seemed not to expect my return and were surprised. I came with the real estate agent. Lucy? Who is that man behind you?" Alex asked, pointing to the man behind me. Before I could say anything, Kate exclaimed, "Isn't that sister-in-law's new partner? Brother, this is infidelity. Let's make her support us financially." In the midst of everyone thinking Alex and I are still married, I've lost all patience with Kate, who, despite having introduced Alex to a new lover, is now making a fuss demanding money. Amidst this, the real estate agent handed a business card to my father-in-law and greeted him. Looking at the card, my father-in-law wondered, "Why is someone from real estate here?" The agent replied, "To appraise the value of this house." My in-laws exchanged glances and started laughing. "We plan to continue living here, so no appraisal is needed." However, the agent clearly stated, "Actually, this house is in Lucy's name. She wishes to sell it, so we are proceeding with the sale." Upon hearing this, my in-laws showed expressions of surprise, seemingly unaware of this fact. Perhaps Alex hadn't accurately conveyed this information. Alex said he would explain the details himself, so I left it alone. However, from my in-laws' attitude, it was clear that they had not received this information. They seemed to think I was just a burden and that Alex was supporting me by buying this house. So, I planned to explain the truth about the house's ownership and financial aspects to Alex and his parents if the situation didn't improve after a while. However, before I could explain, Alex's sister Kate appeared and kicked me out of the house as the owner. Therefore, I judged that dialogue with this in-law family became difficult and decided to take direct action. That action was to find a new home for myself, complete the move, and then promptly sell this house. Alex seemed to take Kate's words at face value and was complacent, thinking I wouldn't divorce. Seeing Alex's surprised face, I sighed inwardly. Since I, the owner, was kicked out of this house, it makes sense to sell it. It might be, but this residence is mine as well, and since we're married, it's also yours. Right now, my parents and sister are living here too. So what? Whether you or your family are here, it's irrelevant to me. Besides, we divorced quite some time ago. You signed the divorce papers, right? I submitted them to the city hall immediately. At my words, Alex seemed shocked and said, "What?" He seemed to think the divorce papers were just a threat. Disappointed, I sighed again. Then Kate started accusing, "Such an unforgivable woman. This she-devil, using my brother's money to get the house and then putting it in your name. I wonder who she thinks is the cause of this situation." I stared at Kate. "Your beloved brother actually doesn't have any money. He's working, but all his income goes to repaying borrowed money. Why does my brother have debts? Isn't that because he paid your living expenses?" Kate had been married 3 times, but 2 of them ended due to her infidelity. Each time she would say, "Please keep it a secret from my parents. I don't have the funds, so help me," and Alex would comply with her unreasonable requests. At first, I didn't notice, but then I discovered that the savings we were supposed to be building together had significantly decreased and confronted Alex about it. It turned out that Alex had been giving living expenses to his sister Kate without telling me. Despite this, I resolved the house payments using my own savings. I was beyond surprised and felt utter disdain for him for giving his sister such amount of money. Even if he said he would pay back the money in the future, I could no longer trust his word. I hired a lawyer. It was to recover our joint savings that he had squandered. Before I could share this fact, his parents, learning about their daughter's infidelity, exploded in anger. All her past divorces, she said they were due to personality clashes. To think Kate was unfaithful. Such a dirty child. We didn't raise our children to be adulterers. Wait, Mom, Dad, it's just Lucy talking nonsense. This isn't true. Perhaps feeling disadvantaged in this situation, even Alex, who doted on Kate so much, exclaimed, "It's all your fault. Because of all the money I gave to you to support your life, I ended up in debt, and because of you, Lucy and I had to divorce." Hearing this, I said, "Is it really all Kate's fault? It was your decision to suddenly bring your parents to my house, wasn't it? It was you who collaborated with your family to label me a wicked wife. And to think, just because your sister is your favorite, you plan to drive me out of the house, eventually leaving me to live on the streets? That's ridiculous. He tried to cling to my leg, but I kicked him away. I'll be getting back all the money I paid on your behalf. Prepare yourself. I'm coming with my lawyer tomorrow. With that, I left the house. While we were talking, the house valuation was completed. Fortunately, it looks like the house will be sold as I hoped. The next day, when I showed up with my lawyer and explained the list of expenses he had wasted, his parents, looking at it seriously, said so much money existed, yet because of Kate's actions. They glared sternly at Kate, who was at the corner of the room. It seems his parents came to the house believing Alex's words about taking care of things from now on. But Alex's lies and Kate's adulterous actions had destabilized their retirement life, and they were furious. Alex incurred additional debt. After that, he was immediately kicked out of the house and ended up living in a simple apartment with his family. Kate, facing condemnation from her family, decided to live with her husband for a while and gave birth. However, since the child's hair color was clearly not her husband's, she was kicked out of that house as well. It was difficult for Kate to raise her child properly, and the child was placed in an institution. Kate, with nowhere to go, seemed to have no choice but to return to her condemning family. It seems she is still being asked for money by Alex, but I am free. I am enjoying my independent life and considering trying something new in the future. My name is Lindsay. I'm a 29-year-old company employee, and this year means I'm getting older still. I met Jake, a year older than me, through friends, and we decided to marry 6 months after we started dating. Jake, who made a name for himself in tennis during his student days, is an active person who continues to play tennis even now. As I was in the tennis club during my student days, we immediately found common ground together. Once we started dating, we would often play tennis together on the weekends. One day, after our date, Jake proposed to me and we decided to get married. It's been almost 3 years since we got married. We don't have children, but we bought an apartment after getting married and have been living together ever since. Both of us work, and while we aren't struggling financially, we can't say that we're wealthy either. We're living a happy life. However, something happened between us that shattered my peaceful days. One day, Jake suddenly asked me to come to his parents' house. Surprised, I hurried there to find Jake, his parents, and an unknown woman waiting for me. As I struggled to understand the situation, Jake suddenly knelt down and said, "Lindsay, I'm truly sorry. The truth is, I've been involved with this woman here, Olivia. Last week, we found out that Olivia is pregnant. I feel responsible for her and the baby. So I think it's better that we separate. I'm sorry, but I want a divorce." Jake shocked me with this revelation. Exposed to his infidelity, the pregnancy, and faced with his demands for divorce, I was stunned. That was when my mother-in-law spoke to me. "Lindsay, please forgive Jake. Yes, he cheated, but the problem lies with you too. You and Jake weren't really a good match from the beginning. So, I'm sorry, but please forget about him." And my father-in-law added, "Olivia's father is an executive at a major company. A man in a totally different position from someone like your poor father. I think you know who's more suitable for our son." I couldn't believe it. Jake's father belittled not only me, but also my father too. Normally, parents would put the blame on their son for cheating, but Jake's parents didn't seem to think that way. Instead, they seemed to think it was natural for us to divorce, and that their son had done nothing wrong. I took the divorce papers and said, "I understand what you all want to say. Being with people who have such warped thoughts might affect me too. I'm shocked at how you make it seem like I'm the villain despite Jake's infidelity. Don't worry, I'll file these divorce papers myself. I'll leave the rest to a lawyer." And with that, I quickly left the scene. As I left, my father-in-law mockingly said, "A poor person hiring a lawyer? What a waste of time and money. When she doesn't even have any. She shouldn't bite off more than she can chew." Ha ha ha. Ignoring him, I left his parents' house and immediately went to City Hall to file the divorce papers. At least I was able to end my marriage with Jake. The next day, surprisingly, Jake and Olivia came to my apartment. Seeing me, Jake said, "Oh, you're still here? You haven't even packed your things. You're taking your time, aren't you?" Hearing this, Olivia also looked at me curiously. I was furious at Jake's words. "What are you talking about? You're the one who should be taking it slow. This is my house, so you should be the one to leave. The movers are coming soon to take all your belongings to your parents' house. If there's anything you don't want them to touch, you should take it now," I retorted. Hearing this, Jake suddenly panicked. "What? This is my house. The ownership should be in my name," he exclaimed. I was dumbfounded. After all, this apartment was bought in my name. I had already told Jake about this and about my family's background before we got married. But it seems that Jake is the type to conveniently forget things that don't suit him. Perhaps this carefree nature is why he was easily swayed by Olivia. I showed the deed to the apartment and my name was clearly written on it. Jake's face quickly changed upon seeing it. Meanwhile, Olivia's face began to cloud over with anger. "Jake, what is this all about? This is completely different from what you told me before. Were you deceiving me?" Olivia began to confront him. This is strange. What's happening?" Jake responded in confusion. "That's not an answer. Explain yourself." Olivia pressed on. "First, this is my house, so please take your argument outside. And just so you know, Jake has various debts. So if you're planning to marry him, be prepared for that burden." I calmly stated the facts to Olivia. Hearing this, Olivia seemed about to say something, but I didn't care and kicked both of them out of the room, slamming the door behind them. After a while, I could hear them arguing outside the door, but it eventually quieted down. About an hour later, the movers finally arrived and took all of Jake's belongings to his parents' house. The room was now clean, and I was relaxing in the newly organized space. But it was short-lived. Suddenly, the intercom rang repeatedly. I cautiously opened the door with the chain lock still on, and my mother-in-law was standing there. "Hello, is there something you need?" "Lindsay, why did you keep such an important thing a secret? What are you talking about? I can't believe it. But Jake just told me that this apartment is in your name and that your parents are the owners of that famous restaurant chain." It seemed Jake finally remembered my family's circumstances. "What about it? If I had known, I would never have let this divorce happen. A daughter from such a wealthy family. We would love to have you back in our family. Lindsay, please, reconsider and start over with Jake." I was shocked and at a loss for words at her outrageous request. I couldn't possibly agree to what she was asking. "You really have a terrible way of thinking about things. Am I not a human being? Are you only interested in money? I'm sorry, but I don't want anything more to do with you. There's nothing more to talk about, so please leave," I said and attempted to close the door. But my mother-in-law, infuriated by my attitude, raised her voice in anger. "Don't be so arrogant. I'm giving you my permission to reconcile your differences. Fix things with him right now. I won't leave this spot until you agree to get back together. Open this door immediately." She said this, pounding on the door repeatedly. I decided that I couldn't handle this alone and called the police. They came and took my mother-in-law away. Even as the officers were taking her, she was shouting something loudly, but I no longer cared to listen to her words. There was a reason why my in-laws were unaware of my family's business background. My father, coming from a poor background since childhood, continued to live modestly, even after becoming a company president. He never considered buying branded clothes. He always took great care of his belongings and used them for a long time. Hence, at our wedding, he wore a suit he had bought decades ago. Seeing this, my in-laws assumed that my father was not financially well off and misunderstood his restaurant chain as a small, privately owned business. As a result, they never delved deeper into my father's business. Time went by, without them understanding the true circumstances of my family. Days after managing to send my mother-in-law home, Jake tried to persuade me to reconcile our differences. His persistence was incredibly exhausting. It was surprising how insistent he was, despite the fact that he was the one who proposed the divorce. He seems to have a talent for quickly forgetting inconvenient truths. I opened the door, keeping the chain lock on, and Jake, upon seeing me, began to speak with teary eyes. "Lindsay, please, let's give it another try. Everything is my fault. I'm truly sorry. I still love you. Let's be together again." He then explained a sudden turn of events. Olivia had apparently approached Jake aiming to get his house, pretending to be pregnant to sway him. However, once she learned about Jake's considerable debts, she gave up and fled, and now Jake was coming to me to seek reconciliation. Huh? What are you saying? I don't know anything about that. How can you say that? After you cheated and brought up divorce, now that she's left you, you want to get back together? There's no limit to your audacity. I have no intention of getting back together with you. Don't ever come here again. I refused Jake right there and then. Surprisingly, he quietly left. However, this was not to be their last attempt. Days later, Jake's entire family unexpectedly showed up at my workplace. They were shouting, "Bring out Lindsay. Get that woman out here. We know she's here," causing chaos in the office and leading to the security guards being called. I stood there, dumbfounded by the situation. But they wouldn't have things their way any longer. I worked at the headquarters of my father's company, and that day, my father was also in the office. All of my colleagues also supported me. "Hey, what are you doing? This is my company. Don't just barge in and make a scene. I know everything you did to demean my daughter. Don't ever come near her again, and never set foot in this company again." My usually calm father shouted furiously at my ex-in-laws. Everyone, including the employees and Jake's family, must have been surprised at the anger of my father, who usually only shows his gentle and calm side. Sorry. We're really sorry." Jake's family desperately apologized. My father's stern words had immediately quieted them down. As they were being escorted out by security, my father shouted in a strong voice, "Don't you ever come here again, and never do something like this again. I won't allow it. You understand?" Hearing this, I couldn't stop myself from crying. I felt a deep sense of gratitude that my father had gotten so angry for my sake. Later, through the company's legal advisor, I decided to seek damages from Jake's family. I sought damages for the divorce due to Jake's infidelity, for his persistent attempts at reconciliation after the divorce, and for the disturbance at my workplace. The total amount was substantial, and I eventually received payment from them. I also made them sign a written agreement promising never to come before me again. Jake's family's state of affairs rapidly declined thereafter. Chased by the money owed to me and Jake's existing debts, they ended up selling their home and moving far away. In town, the story spread that Jake had committed adultery, divorced his wife, and after being abandoned by his mistress, attempted to reconcile. Facing such embarrassment, they could no longer stay in this town. While I felt a bit of sympathy for them, I also knew that everything was a consequence of their actions, so it was clearly deserved. Jake's family never appeared before me again. Finally, I was able to resume my peaceful days. However, my father had harsh words for me as well regarding what had happened. He blamed me for not recognizing before the marriage that Jake was a person who would commit adultery and accrue debts. Certainly, while Jake was at fault, my lack of insight was also partly to blame. Unable to argue with my father, I felt disappointed and disillusioned with marriage. I felt that I needed to give my heart a break. However, about a year later, I decided to marry my colleague, Matt. Matt was sincere and earnest in his work, trusted by everyone. I was initially attracted by his personality, but as we started dating, I was also drawn to his lifestyle. His life was surprisingly simple. He never indulged in branded items, used everyday things for a long time, but generously spent money and spoiled me on dates. His behavior was very similar to my father's. My father, who usually saves money, would splurge on family trips, bringing us joy. I deeply loved and respected my father. Realizing Matt's actions were similar to my father's, I felt that I could be happy with him in the future. Therefore, I decided to marry Matt. I was worried about being scolded by my father for remarrying within a year of my divorce, but his reaction was surprisingly positive, probably because he had heard of Matt's reputation at work and knew of his character. There was nothing bad said about Matt, and from my father's perspective as the company president, Matt seemed to be performing exceptionally well. I feel confident that Matt will take good care of you, Lindsay, my father told me happily. Matt and I were happily married. Not long after our marriage, we discovered that I was with a child. The happiest person to hear this news was undoubtedly my father. I was so glad to see my father happy. Reflecting on my time with Jake, where we didn't have children even after 3 years of marriage, it seemed like a stroke of luck. Matt and I plan to take over the company in the future. We are currently learning the basics of management from my father. Although there are many challenges, we accept that they are our responsibility as successors, and we are working hard together. We believe that we will need even more effort for the sake of our upcoming child, despite all that's happened. I am now very happy. Together with my family, we intend to firmly support this company in the future. This is going to be our home now. The rest of the stuff is arriving today, so please take care of them. What? Why are you deciding this on your own? Oh, by the way, Anna will be coming too. Please welcome her. I had noticed that they had started coming over more often since we moved into the high-rise condo, but I never expected such bold actions. I immediately asked my husband, who had just returned from work. Your mother and her family are saying they're going to live here? Oh, yeah, that was today, wasn't it? What are you talking about? Huh? Didn't I mention it? They're moving in with us today. Haha. I was dumbfounded by my husband's laughter. I couldn't think of what to say next. Don't just stand there. Get ready to make dinner. We're celebrating today. At those words, my anger reached its peak. How can this be allowed? After all, we can live here thanks to me. Huh? What are you talking about? That's not true. As we were arguing, my mother-in-law arrived. If you hate living together so much, why don't you just leave? Then she threw an envelope on the table. What is this? It's severance money from us. Severance money? There's $10,000 in the envelope. Take it, get divorced, and leave. We'll take the house. The in-laws were snickering at me. At that moment, I made up my mind. They are such fools. Lucky me. Understood. I'll leave right away. I quickly packed my bags and left the house, jumping for joy. But this wasn't the end. I couldn't stop laughing, thinking about what would happen to my in-laws next. My name is Sarah, and I work as a bank employee. I thought I would have a happy life married to Kevin. But marriage doesn't always go as planned. I realized this when I first met my mother-in-law. So you are Sarah. What do you do for a living? I'm a bank employee. Oh, a bank employee, huh? I guess you don't have to be too smart to do that. What? It was clear she was belittling me. This happened during our introductory meeting before the marriage. Kevin, sitting next to me, seemed not to hear and just smoked his cigarette. Well, let's get along from now on. Yes. Nice to meet you. I wondered if everything was going to be okay. But after we got married, my husband was kind and we didn't have to interact much with my mother-in-law. Are you sure it was a good idea to marry a man with such a modest salary? What's wrong all of a sudden? Well, my mom used to say such things, but now I just feel pathetic. It's okay. Don't worry. Kevin had always been insecure, even when we were dating. He was even intimidated when he found out I was a bank employee, but I never cared much about my partner's financial status. Since then, I think we've had a fun, albeit modest, life. What are you planning to do about where we live? A few months after getting married, I received a phone call from my father. I think we're fine as we are now. We don't have any particular needs. Actually, a spot has opened up in the high-rise condo, so I was wondering what you think. Huh? A high-rise condo. Indeed, my father owned a high-rise condo. Originally a company president, he had handed over the business to my brother and was now living a relaxed life. Of course, my husband was aware of this. If you guys are interested, you can move in immediately. Got it. I'll discuss it with Kevin. I consulted with my husband. Kevin, are you interested in living in a high-rise condo? A high-rise condo? It would be amazing to live in such a place. Kevin showed an excitement I hadn't seen before. Seeing his smile made me happy too. Actually, my dad offered us to live in the high-rise condo. Really? Yes. Kevin, possibly overwhelmed with excitement, suddenly grabbed my shoulders. Calm down a bit. Sorry. And so, it was decided that we would live in the high-rise condo. However, for me, it was the beginning of a nightmare. I'll contact Dad then. Okay, thanks. But I can't believe I'm going to live in a high-rise condo. Kevin's eyes sparkled. After getting Kevin's approval, I called my dad the next day. Hello, Dad? Kevin agreed, so we've decided to move in. That's great. It's already cleaned and ready for you anytime. Got it. Thank you. Don't worry, I'll take care of the paperwork. At this moment, I realized something important and asked my father. By the way, how will we handle the rent? Don't worry about that. As long as you live there, you won't need to pay rent. Really? Of course. It's all for my dear daughter. My husband and I started preparing to move immediately. We moved in just 1 week. Perhaps both of us were excited to live in the high-rise condo. So this is a high-rise condo. It's incredible. I never imagined we could live in such a place. It's like a dream. All thanks to your father. Indeed, we need to express our gratitude. Although initially bewildered by the larger space of the high-rise condo, it only took a week for us to get used to it. I had concerns about whether someone like me should live there, but those concerns faded away. About 2 months after we started living in the high-rise condo, my sister Anna wants to come visit. Is that okay? Kevin had an older sister named Anna. I heard from Kevin that she had been married but got divorced because she was fed up with her husband and had returned to her parents' home. That's fine, but why does she want to come here? I hardly had any conversation with her before, so I didn't understand the reason. Well, I mentioned our new place, and she said she wanted to come over. That's fine, as long as it's on the weekend. I'll let her know then. And then the promised Saturday arrived. When the doorbell rang and I opened the front door, there stood a woman clad in branded items from head to toe. I couldn't help but step back, and then she spoke. It's been a while. Do you remember me? Of course, Anna. Then may I come in? Oh, excuse me. Please come in. My sister-in-law entered the house and seemed to be inspecting every corner. She checked each room, nodding as if satisfied with something. Is there something that concerns you? I was just admiring the house. Ordinary people can't live in such a place, right? It's all thanks to my father. Then we moved to the living room and had a casual chat. During our pleasant conversation, my sister-in-law suddenly made a condescending remark. At that time, I didn't understand why that was happening. It must be nice to be you, Sarah. Don't you think so, Kevin? I don't really. But this house is all thanks to your father-in-law, right? I wondered why she said that and timidly asked for a reason. Did I do something wrong? Not at all. It's just that our family wasn't wealthy. I knew from Kevin that his father had passed away when they were in middle school. Since then, they have faced many hardships. That made me think she might be jealous of me. That could be why she was dressed in all those branded items. Well, I'll be going now. I'll visit again soon. Take care. Okay. For about 2 hours, the conversation mostly revolved around their hardships and how fortunate I was. During that time, Kevin hardly joined in the conversation and just silently listened to his sister. I'm sorry. My sister is like that. I kind of figured. I'll make sure to warn her next time. Kevin promised, but less than a month later, she visited us again. And this time, she wasn't alone. Sorry for intruding. She barged in and plopped down on the sofa. Today, I brought our mom along, but the door was locked. Oh, Kevin gave me a spare key. What? I wanted to ask Kevin about it immediately, but he was out and unavailable. I had a bad feeling this could lead to trouble. And then the most troublesome person spoke up. It's not that big of a deal. What's the problem with having a spare key? The issue is that I wasn't informed about it. Maybe Kevin doesn't trust you? I think so too. With the two of them against me, it seemed hopeless. From that day on, my life turned completely different from before. When I returned home from work, I found my sister-in-law and my mother-in-law in the house. Moreover, they had helped themselves to the food in the fridge and moved things around the rooms without asking. This isn't right, don't you think? Even if I say something, the two of them won't listen. So, maybe it's best to just let them do what they want. I can't stand living like this. Please talk to them. I was quite frustrated. Frustrated with my husband for doing nothing and with myself for being powerless. Okay, I'll talk to them. Will you be there with me? If you're going to speak up properly, then I don't mind. My husband, as usual, confronted the two when they came over. However, they didn't pay any attention. Sarah must have instigated this, right? Come on, Kevin, be more assertive. That's right. You're the head of the household. You should have your own opinions. Then my husband seemed to be contemplating something, looking down. Don't say weird things. Please leave. When I said this to the two, my husband unexpectedly turned against me. You're the one who should be quiet. What? My husband was siding against me. He had completely succumbed to the will of his mother and sister. They took advantage of Kevin's lack of confidence and his inability to refuse. Now, I had no one on my side. I was wrong in my judgment. What my sister and mother said is correct. From now on, I will also express my own opinions. When my husband spoke with newfound confidence, the two smirked and looked at us. From then on, the situation became one-sided. I've decided to allow my mom and sister to come and go as they please. Wait, don't make such decisions without me. The decision is made and you have no say in it. My husband ignored my opinion, and his mother and sister supported his decision. Sarah, that's enough. That's right. Kevin is the head of this household. You just need to follow him as his wife. And there's a spare room, right? No way. It's a waste to have an unused room, so we'll use it. The atmosphere was clearly in their favor. The room lent by my father was now considered theirs. Given the circumstances, I had no choice but to tough it out. I decided to focus on my work and not worry about the situation at home. 6 months later, this attitude paid off. You've been doing really well lately. How about working in a higher position? Me, I've been watching your work recently, and I think you're the right person for the job. Thank you. I'll continue to do my best. It was an unexpected motivation, but it was the happiest thing that had happened to me so far. However, there was a problem. You've been coming home late recently. What have you been up to? Just work. Really? Aren't you having an affair? If you think it's a lie, go ahead and check. This is where my mother-in-law and sister-in-law would chime in. Getting so defensive makes you look even more suspicious. Anna might be right, but Mom, no one would pay attention to Sarah with her looks. Indeed, they clapped their hands and laughed together. They were just having fun teasing me. Until then, they would come over maybe 3 times a week at most, but recently, they started to be at our house almost every day. One day, my mother-in-law came to me and said something totally off base. Do you need something? Do you even understand? Understand what? Have you ever thought about why you can live in a place like this? A woman like you doesn't fit in here. I thought to myself, that's more like her. You can't even do household chores properly. You're useless here. Do you get that? I was continuously bombarded with such baseless accusations. Of course, I wanted to retort immediately, but I felt that nothing I said would improve the situation. I chose to stay silent. Afterwards, perhaps bored, my mother-in-law returned to her room. Just as I was about to start preparing dinner, my sister-in-law came. I heard the conversation earlier. There's never a moment of peace. You should really understand your place. You're like a maid in this house. I work hard too, you know? And it might sound bad, but I earn more than Kevin. Then you should contribute that money to the household expenses. For us, of course. I couldn't agree with her argument. I wasn't living in luxury. I was actually paying for most of our daily expenses, like utilities and groceries. Kevin seemed to have forgotten that, and more importantly, my mother-in-law and sister-in-law didn't even know the reality. I often wondered what would happen if I stopped paying. Then why don't you work, Anna? Why should I have to do that? I almost envied her ability to say such things earnestly. It was a mystery where she went every day without working. So, where do you go every day? I don't need to tell you that. At that moment, my sister-in-law avoided looking at me. It was clear she was involved in something she couldn't openly talk about. Is that so? Then I'll just assume you're gallivanting around every day without working. I said this with a serious face. Angered, my sister-in-law threw a mug from the table at me. It didn't hit me, but the mug shattered into pieces. Why did you dodge? That was my favorite cup. Since it's your fault, clean it up. I silently began cleaning up the broken cup while she stood by, watching and laughing. I thought about throwing the shards back at her, but I refrained. You're in the way standing there. What? I'm just watching. After cleaning up in a few minutes, I tried to leave, but my sister-in-law interjected again. Remember, if you say something weird next time, it'll be much worse. I understand. I'll be careful. Inside, I didn't mean it. Watching my sister-in-law's satisfied departure, I complained in my mind. Don't get too cocky. You'll get what's coming to you soon. Then one day, as usual, when I returned home from shopping, the house was noisy. Entering the house, I was met with a multitude of cardboard boxes everywhere. My mother-in-law was bustling around. What are you doing? This is going to be our home now. The rest of the stuff is arriving today, so please take care of them. What? Why are you deciding this on your own? Oh, by the way, Anna will be coming too. Please welcome her. I immediately asked my husband, who had just returned from work. Your mother and her family are saying they're going to live here? Oh, yeah, that was today, wasn't it? What are you talking about? Huh? Didn't I mention it? They're moving in with us today. I was dumbfounded by my husband's laughter. I couldn't think of what to say next. Don't just stand there. Get ready to make dinner. We're celebrating today. At those words, my anger reached its peak. How can this be allowed? After all, we can live here thanks to me. Huh? What are you talking about? That's not true. Are you serious? Serious? But you're just obeying everything your family says. What did you say? Say that again. My husband raised his hand towards me. At that moment, it wasn't fear I felt, but disbelief at how my husband, who used to be so unassertive, could change to this extent. Going to hit me? Try if you dare. Then, my husband slowly lowered his arm. Apparently, my words intimidated him, and he calmed down a bit. But then, he started laughing, recalling something. What are you laughing at? I just remembered why we got married. You should be thankful that you could marry me. What are you talking about? You might not know, but I married you because nobody else was interested. Before, I thought we got married out of love. Now, being told this, there's nothing I can do. My husband continued with a shocking revelation. And it's annoying, but I married you because you earn more than me. Oh, but that's what Mom told me. I felt nothing but anger towards my laughing husband. So that was the reason. Since you're married to someone like me, it's only natural for you to contribute to the living expenses. Indeed, ever since we got married, I was the one who always provided the money whenever needed. I never thought you were such a terrible person. That's mutual. You only bring home money, and I never thought you could be so boring. As my husband and I were arguing, my mother-in-law arrived. If you hate living together so much, why don't you just leave? Why should I have to do that? We don't need someone like you in this place. My sister-in-law agreed. Sarah is unnecessary. Nothing will change if you're gone. Then, my mother-in-law threw an envelope on the table. What is this? It's severance money from us. Severance money? There's $10,000 in the envelope. Take it, get divorced, and leave. We'll take the house. Haha. My in-laws were smirking at me. At that moment, I made up my mind. The high-rise condo I was living in was technically in my name, but I was only borrowing it for free from my father. And then I thought of a way to retaliate against them. Such foolish people. This is an opportunity for me. I decided to act immediately. Understood. I'll leave right away. I thought you would put up more of a fight. Well, that's the kind of woman she was. Too bad, but I don't want to see your face anymore, so leave quickly. I was planning to do so without you telling me. I quickly packed my bags and left the house, almost dancing with glee. Imagining what would happen to my in-laws next made me unable to stop laughing. I decided to go back to my parents' house to inform my father about the situation. Why have you come back suddenly? I've been kicked out of the house. Kicked out? How did that happen? Well, you see, I explained to my father what had happened that day and the events leading up to it. I could see my father's face turning to anger as I spoke. After I finished, he was angrier than I had ever seen him. Let's kick them out immediately. But I stopped him. Wait, Dad, I have a better idea. What kind of idea? I shared the plan I had thought of when leaving the house. My father nodded and accepted my suggestion. That's a brilliant idea, right? This way, it benefits you as well, and I get my revenge. So, you'll take care of it? Yes, don't worry. The next day, I contacted my husband immediately. About the apartment, I have no intention of giving it back. I know, but the ownership is still mine, so I'm thinking of transferring it to you. Then it will truly be yours, right? I see. I don't want to cause you any trouble. I'll handle the paperwork. Is that okay? Okay. I'll leave it to you. All right. I'll also send the divorce papers by mail. Take care. After saying that, I hung up the phone. Just before hanging up, I could sense my husband's joy. A week later, the divorce was finalized, and the paperwork for the high-rise condo was completed. All that was left was to wait. Hey, I got a bill for $6,000. What's the meaning of this? Explain. A month later, my furious husband called. It was hard to suppress my laughter at his reaction. Well, it's a high-rise condo, you know? Did you think you could live there for free? But the rent was free until now, wasn't it? Indeed, when I was there. Haha. This is no joke. He was shouting so loudly that I had to pull the phone away from my ear. It was free because I was there, but now that it's yours, you need to pay the rent. We're not going to pay that. You can choose not to, but remember, the owner of the apartment is my father. After a moment of silence, my mother-in-law took the phone. I heard from Kevin what you did. That was unnecessary of you. Unnecessary? I believe what I did was entirely justified. Please don't be mistaken. What an impudent woman you are. It doesn't matter to me. Haha. You shouldn't have given me $10,000 then. I provoked my mother-in-law. I thought I wouldn't have to deal with them anymore. Indeed, my words got to her. We will absolutely not pay. Is that so? That's fine by me. But don't say I didn't warn you if my father decides to sue. My mother-in-law seemed shaken, losing her previous confidence. Aren't you ashamed to rely on your father? Not at all. It's more shameful for someone who tried to manipulate their son to their own ends, don't you think? I can have a reasonable conversation with you, so let's send this. She must have realized she was at a disadvantage because she abruptly hung up the phone. She was just running away. I immediately informed my father about the conversation. I see. Then I need to do something about it for my daughter. I'm counting on you. My former in-laws acted impulsively, thinking only of their convenience, and this was the result. Such a pitiful parent and child. They will face more difficulties from now on. I will just wait and enjoy watching. Time passed, and my ex-husband and his family continued living in the high-rise condo without paying rent. Eventually, my father had to take action. I just billed them for the past due rent. Really? We can't ignore this any longer. It will be a good lesson for them. Then, a new revelation came to light. There were traces of unauthorized purchases made with a credit card in my name. A lawyer, introduced by my father, was hired and preparations for a lawsuit began, demanding reimbursement from my ex-husband and his family. Why should we pay you? The first to object was my sister-in-law, mostly because the purchases were expensive branded bags and clothes. How can you say that after shopping with someone else's money? This is clear theft. It's pathetic to fuss over such trivial matters. Besides, those purchases were made before your divorce, so I think they're invalid. Unfortunately, that logic doesn't apply. You and I are strangers now. I don't care about that. The call was from my sister-in-law, but she hung up unilaterally. Escaping seems to be their usual tactic. However, they couldn't escape and had to make the payment. They must pay the rent for the apartment, but that family doesn't have the means to pay. There was one person who came begging for forgiveness. What are you saying now? We can't afford to pay such an amount. We'd be ruined even if we took out loans. You understand, right? My mother-in-law was trying to get sympathy through tears. It's all your responsibility. Aren't you ashamed at this point? I know that. I'm asking you, having known about it fully well. I felt it was a waste of time to be involved with these people. It's impossible. Please make sure to pay the full amount. Please help me. Afterward, it seems they continued to live in poverty. The three of them, having lost their place to live, returned to their old family home, which was in a dilapidated state to neglect. Eventually, they realized they needed more money to live and decided to sell it for a cheap price. I heard, "Sarah, please help me." I received a call from my ex-husband, Kevin, but I ignored it and hung up. In the end, I was able to live in the high-rise condo they had left. Of course, I don't have to pay any rent. My work is going well, and from now on, I will live my life putting my happiness first.